like to call this meeting to order. Northfield Township Board of Trustees workshop agenda, April 8th, 2025. Please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Manley, can you please call roll?
Olney. Here. Moko.
Here.
Manley. Here. Donner.
Here.
Chick. Here. Otto. Here. Roman.
Here.
All here.
Thank you. Make a motion, we adopt the agenda.
All support.
Supported by Chick. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Petitions and communications, there's nobody tonight. In that case, there's no comments, clarifications, no correspondence. The agenda item tonight is the fiscal year 2024-25 budget workshop number 1, long-term capital planning, general fund, and wastewater treatment plant. With that, Ms. Kujay, would you like to do your presentation? Okay, and I'll switch this.
So for some of you who are new, the capital is the first part that we start when we look to budget. So we meet with the department heads and we assess their needs, looking first for what's in the next budget year, and then 10 years out, so we can kind of have an idea of where we're going for planning. So the capital improvement plan, the goal is the budget year plus a 10-year forecast. The objective 1 is to ensure board goals are being met. Objective 2 is financial strategy for funding major capital. And then the first year of the capital improvement plan moves into the capital budget for the budget that we're working on. So in this case, 25-26. So during the budget process, the governing body decides whether to fund the capital or to do something else with the funds available. So this is kind of your decision to decide on the capital, but this is what the different departments thought that their needs would be. So then the board goals are fiscal responsibility, planning and development, public safety, community services, communication, and professional development. So in distinguishing the difference between major capital and minor capital, there's this little chart here that kind of tells you anything that's less than $10,000 budgeted in the operating budget, and then anything over $10,000 is paid for as a capital budget. So when we talk about capital, we're mostly talking about things that are over $10,000 or things that are combined, which are over $10,000. So the approval levels show that the minimum price between 0 and 5,000, the department heads have the capability of approving. If it's between 5,000 and 10,000, township manager, in this case the supervisor, would approve, and then if it's 10,000 or more, the board approves, and then all contracts and leases are approved by the board. And then when we talk about funding, here's a little graph that shows you the different requirements. So if lease financing is required, there's interest expenses incurred, there's a higher level of accounting needed for the audit, and this is for anything over $1 million. And then bond financing, or under $1 million. Anything over $1 million, we're looking at bond financing. There's interest expense incurred, there's a higher level of accounting needed, and then we also incur legal and bond advisor costs. If we're paying for cash, any amount is allowed as long as there's money available in the budget or in the reserves. And then for grants, track that for the audit, and any amount the project qualifies. So then this slide shows, this is the combined capital needs quantified for the next 10 years. And you can see it's all broken out. There's the township facilities, parks and trailways. We've got all of that there. So you can see on the graph, 26% for the next 10 years is the wastewater treatment plan, and that's what we went for the bond for. And this breaks it out, kind of like the fiscal responsibility. We're talking about the township facilities. The CIP is development and funding identification. Planning and development, we're talking about the wastewater treatment plan. We've got $4 million coming up, and that's alignment with the master plan. And then we've got the public safety, for police and fire have their own capital plans, and then community service, which is the parks and trailways. So then this last slide, the far column on the right shows what we're looking to budget for the upcoming fiscal year. So fiscal year 25 to 26. And those items match with Department 900, which is capital that you'll see, later on when we discuss the budget. So the community center had some needs that were coming up. I think like HVAC and their parking lot. Parks and pathways had some things. Fire mostly has like vehicle and equipment. Police has a variety of things, and then the wastewater treatment plant infrastructure has $3.6 million in the next coming year. And then over to the left to that has 2026 to 2036. You can see that projected out. And so in that total project cost, you'll notice that there's a difference at the bottom of $2 million, and that's for that, there was the grant for the Lakeshore project, so that's $2 million that would cover that difference. So the total project cost, and then we've got the township cost of what the township would be responsible for. And so that's just kind of like a high-level overview, and that's where the capital is. Does anyone have any questions?
This might be for the board, I'm not sure, but on approval levels, the township manager, 5,000 to 10,000, that is with no board oversight?
Yes, that's without board oversight.
That's the board policy, correct? Correct.
It just increased last term
Right.
from 5,000 to 10,000.
Right.
It's up to the board if they want to decide to
I
change
have
it.
no opinion on it, just clarification on it.
Ms. Buckle?
A couple of things. So for the capital improvement plan, have these, and I don't recall if we did, because I remember seeing these dollars and everything. Do we have, so in the municipal facilities for $1 million, do we have it itemized out what that $1 million consists of? Because I think that's what we also need to do, because this capital improvement plan, while we reviewed it the last term, it was never approved by the board. And I have huge concerns about putting anything from this capital improvement plan into our budgets, because we did not approve the whole plan. We just reviewed it.
So I will say, first off, we're mostly concerned with the next fiscal year, because that's what's going in your budget, and that's part of the next budget process. The rest of that is, it can adjust year to year, so every year we would meet and discuss, but it's also up to you to decide on these projects. So for the municipal facilities, for 2027, it was estimated $175,000 for a roof and gutter. Fiscal year '28 was $125,000 set aside for paint and carpet. And then we've got from nothing in 2029. I take that back. Equipment in 2029 is a server for $50,000. And then from 2030 on, the previous township manager had requested $100,000 kind of set aside for potential township hall improvements. So nothing really set in stone, just kind of wanted some money set aside for any future needs.
Okay.
Ms. Chick?
Okay, so is there any way that we can see this broken down, itemized, each one of these lines? So before we do, we still haven't approved everything, but we'd like to see exactly what is in the capital improvement plan and determine if those are things we want to go forward with. Yep, thank you.
Because one of the things, too, that I put down in here is part of the capital improvement plan, while he has a server in there, BSNA is going to be going cloud, which means we have to go cloud. So we won't have servers. And so we would be paying the cost of going cloud with BSNA. So we would have to have all that information. I mean, this is something probably for the new township manager, but this is something that we have to have in our capital improvement plan and know what those costs are. It's going to be cheaper than buying a server and maintaining that server, which means we won't have the IT services as much as we do today. But we still would need to understand what those services are. And then the other issue was, because I seen the email on, and it triggered my brain, on the Drain Commission, part of the 2024-2025 budget, we had around $448,000 allocated for the drains, and the board never approved that. So, and that was part of the capital improvement plan. So part of my concern with the capital improvement plan is bringing it back to the board, understanding the details of it, and then the board having to approve it before we put anything into the budget again. So that's,
Just so I'm understanding like a more specific, like detailed view of the capital improvements plan, that's what you're asking for?
Itemized.
Yeah, all right,
Itemized.
that's, makes sense to me, because first time looking at this as a board member, I'm assuming things just aren't there, and that's normal. Like itemized things aren't here, and that's
No.
just the normal procedure?
it should be that we see the itemized parts, not from her.
Yes.
So to speak. We should have seen the plan before, and we did see what the some of the itemized things, I just don't remember what they were. But the board at that time never approved it, they just moved forward. It was a year ago. Yeah, it was a year ago.
Anyone else? Okay.
And I will point out for the park pathway, we'll see it when we get to the budget too. So there's, this was something that the previous manager had mentioned, had set aside $750,000 for future trail connections. And I spoke with Jennifer, and she believes that this was a path from the Bark Park to 8 Mile Road. And so that was set aside for the next fiscal year.
It's not up to us, though, to pay for that. That was for a grant.
Okay, so she said that there's a feasibility grant for it, but that was something, so I kept it in here because that was on there for
Yeah.
last year. So I just wanted you to be
Yeah.
aware of what that is.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to see that. Because I thought, oh, I think that's a grant that we were expecting to get or go after.
Then that, for parks, then there's the waterfront shoreline development that I projected for next, not 2026, but for 2027, and then that would be for the grant, for that $2 million grant.
Is that also considered a grant, that 2 million for the waterfront park? It's not a grant.
Well, it is.
Appropriated in the budget. Right. So so we're clear on what, like, that, there's a difference, right?
It's money from the state,
Okay, but not a,
it's designated for that.
Right. It wasn't a grant that we applied for, but it was indirectly given. And it was a grant, it was something that the senator and House of Representative in our area district applied for on our behalf.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the budget review. So tonight is the introduction to the budget process. This is the overview for next fiscal year, July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. The upcoming key dates, May 27th is to set public hearing on budget. June 10th is the budget public hearing and board consideration of the budget, and June 10th to adopt the capital improvement plan, which was not part of last year, so I made sure that we included that in that year. And then also, 2 weeks from tonight, the police and fire will be presenting their budgets, and then 2 weeks after that, we have another work session for anything that's residual that, we want to discuss. If needed. If not, we don't need it. So this is kind of like the overview. We'll go through all of these, the legal requirements of a budget, the financial environment, the assumptions that we used. We'll talk about the general fund, the building fund, the sewer fund, and then we'll have some time for questions. So legal requirements for municipal budget is set by Public Act 2 of 1968 as amended. The Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act defines the following. Budget appropriation must be in place before a governmental unit may commit to spending the money. It must include prior year actual, current year estimates, and the proposed budget amount. A balanced budget is a budget in which revenues equal or exceed expenditures, but revenues can include the use of fund balance. These are the current challenges. There's legacy costs, aging infrastructure, attracting and retaining talented staff, technology needs, and regulatory and legislative changes. So talking about the financial environment, the property tax revenue, there's the Headley and Proposal A constraints. It's all, I won't go over all of that. It's in your packet to spell that out. But I will say that we did use, so the capped value is equal to the prior year taxable value adjusted for inflation. The inflation rate multiplier is limited to the lesser of inflation or 5% and can sometimes be a reduction. And then when we talk about state share revenue, that's dependent on the state of Michigan's budget appropriations. It does not keep pace with inflation. So it's very sensitive to the economy, and we never really know, how much that's going to be. So the key budget assumptions this year, tax revenue was estimated to be, I think it was 3.1%, so about 3%. State shared revenue, we're estimating it to be a slight increase per the state's estimates. Interest income, I factored in the interest rates and investable balance. Wages were set upon union contracts. Fringes and healthcare was estimated to be a 40% increase in premium. All other fringes were relatively flat. And then property and liability insurance were about 10%, and then utility rates were relatively flat. And so here's the proposed general fund revenue is $2,078,187, and you can see it broken out, so a big chunk of that is from state shared revenue. And then we also, the next big thing is taxes. Then interest income and all other revenue make up a fraction. So then here is the expenditures by department, and you can see where that is. So capital, we've got 857,000. You can see the breakout and the percentages for those different categories or departments. And so this is the fund balance summary for the general fund. Your fund balance policy is to be 85%, and this current budget is fallen below that. And right now, what we're estimating for fiscal year '26 is going to bring your fund balance to 46.3%. And I will state that that is including that $750,000 in that capital for that Parks Pathway. And we'll look at that when we look at the budget. You have a question?
Yeah. Did you include the carryover from the previous budget year into the revenue at all?
Well, so what we do, how we predict the fund balance is I take the audited fund balance from last fiscal year, so 2024's audited balance, and we use the budget revenues and expenditures to estimate the current fund balance. So it could change and increase if you do better than the budget, and it can also decrease. And we use those estimated budget amounts because the year is still going, and we don't know where things will be as of June 30th, and so we just go with the estimates based on that. Any other questions before we move on? So then here's the breakout for the general fund capital. The community center had requests for the HVAC system for $7,210. The north parking lot was for $50,000. Park development, playground and equipment was for $50,000, and then there's that future park development for trail connections for $750,000. So here are the other major operating funds. So we've got police and fire, so we already discussed that they'll have their separate work session in 2 weeks. And we have the building fund and then the sewer fund. And here's the 2026 proposed building fund revenue and expense. So we've got an estimated revenue of $248,755 and expenses of $193,74, and you can kind of see what that breakout is, and we'll discuss that when we get to the budget part too. And so here's the building fund balance, and you can see that they're doing well and estimated to increase again. And then moving on to sewer fund, you can see their revenue is just over $2 million, and the expenses are $5 million. And of that $5 million, 3.6 is the sewer project that we went out and got the bond for. And here's the sewer unrestricted net position, and it's showing that even with the bond, things are going well. And then here's the sewer capital, that's all broken out here, showing what the 3.6 million is made up of. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I know the all-state revenue sharing amount comes out in, do you remember about what time of the year it comes out?
I don't know. I want to see maybe August. So they do it based on, I think they do it based on the calendar year. They do it a little bit different than the fiscal year. So some information we could get and some we have to estimate. So I went to the state site and, pulled what I could and estimated the rest.
Do they ever give you like a percentage of what they think it's going to increase or if it's going to increase?
I can't really say for sure.
I'm going to tell you, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think that they do. I mean, it's, you know, basically you have to go looking for it on the Treasury's website, and it'll, you know, it'll do estimates too, and those aren't always entirely accurate.
Right. Because sometimes we come under, and sometimes we go over.
Ms. Chick, is your mic on? Any other questions? You can continue with your,
Yeah, we'll do this.
all right, I'll switch it over.
So you all should have a copy of this. This is, first off, we'll look at the general fund. And I thought, since some of you are new, or this may have not been discussed in prior years, I thought we'd kind of go through the different sections and do a little more detailed than just the overview, and then that way, if there's any questions, we can discuss that. So the top section is the estimated revenues. And so we've got like the estimated Cablevision franchise fees that we budgeted for. So that's like the cell towers. And so I think that's what it is. But I think going with the fiber optic, we estimate that number to be a reduction. We were estimating an increase in the marijuana permit fees, the marijuana tax revenue sharing, we estimated a slight increase there. The LCSA, we estimated that to be about 10,000, and then we estimated a very slight, from last year's budget, slight increase in the state shared revenue. And then interest income, since there was some use of fund balance, we thought that would probably go down a little bit. So then we come down to the treasurer, and here's where we see that estimated current property tax at 3% increase. You know, again, some of these come from the different departments. I send out a budget template to the departments to kind of fill in their budget with what their estimates are. And so that's kind of where some of these numbers come from, or based on if we know that there's an increase somewhere.
Why would there be an increase on marijuana permit fees? Do we have additional permits issued?
I just think that that's what the trends that we're seeing is a bit of an increase.
I just didn't know if we approved additional marijuana facilities that needed
I
permits,
think they have to reapply
but the
for a
fee's flat.
permit. Yeah, I don't know.
Unless we approve additional.
So are you thinking that the state is awarding additional dollars towards these permits, or?
You know, it's hard to say.
Okay.
Kind of estimated a little bit higher. You know, and this isn't always an exact science. We do our best with the information that we have. And then what the Woodhill Group does is quarterly, we look at, you know, the budget to actuals and make amendments, you know, that way too, if we see some trends.
Because I think under the marijuana, it's based on their sales.
Not permit fees. These are permit fees.
Oh, permit fees.
So
Oh,
these
I
are
thought you were
fees that
talking
the
about
actual businesses
marijuana
pay to
revenue
the
sharing.
township.
So they're yearly renewed, so possibly that's what it is. I
But
don't,
we would either have to issue an additional permit if it's increasing or change the fee, so.
yeah, I don't, obviously the amount can't go up, but I think it might refer to the licensing per year.
Yep.
Again, you know, it's up to you to decide, you can make those changes too.
I thought you were talking about the tax revenue sharing for marijuana.
Nope.
No.
So, you know, so then you can see down here, the planning, zoning department had some, you know, slight increase in the zoning and compliance permits, you know, and then stayed relatively similar, you know, just dropping down slightly. And then we've got some other revenues coming in. And then, so this shows the total of the $2,078,187 in estimated revenues. Anyone have any questions?
I'm looking at, on the marijuana issue, basically it says that the license is issued for a one-year period, and they have to renew it annually. So maybe that's what it is?
I know that's what it is,
Yep.
but there would be no increase. It's fine, it's irrelevant, right?
Unless they raise the fee.
Yeah, we set that fee for our township.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Continue, please.
It's anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000, depending on.
Appropriations, so the expenses for the year. So the salaries we estimated to be,
No, they didn't.
other than the board, 3% increase. And I think that's what we've traditionally done in the past. And so along with that, tax like the Social Security. You can see like, you know, printing and publications stayed the same, training and development, board, you know, we just dropped it $60. And then membership dues, we kept it right about 11,500.
You know what the welfare cost was in 23-24? That 26,000, that's not in 24-25 or projected for 25-26?
I don't know yet what that is.
The state does.
Do any of the current board members know what the welfare costs were? It says 23-24 activity, $26,000 for township board welfare costs. Towards the bottom of the page, just wondering, there's just nowhere else on there.
Welfare costs mean.
I can dig into that too.
All right, just large chunk of money that doesn't happen anymore.
And then looking at the supervisor's budget, you know, that stayed relatively close to what it was. We tend to recommend not to budget for miscellaneous. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it's requested to be there, but we kind of look at it as if you know what something is, it should fit in a category, and the miscellaneous are things that come up last minute that really has no other category. So then the township manager, estimated that basically off of what prior year budget was and kind of where we're trending. And I know that that's looking to hire that position. And then the clerk, you know, that's pretty close to what it was, slight increase. Did a slight increase for IT. And then a slight decrease for the Board of Review. Nothing really major there. And then we'll get to the treasurer. That's pretty similar to, like a slight little decrease. And then assessing was a slight increase. And then elections, I was told that there's elections in the next fiscal year, but probably wouldn't have the same demand as the last one, so that was a slight decrease.
Does this account for any increases in salaries for the administration?
Anything that was specifically mentioned to me by those departments, and then overall 3%.
Okay.
So sometimes you might see a decrease, and that could be if there's a change in staff turnover and maybe someone hires in at a lower rate. And then the general government services, you know, that was pretty close to a slight decrease. And then we're estimating a slight decrease in the legal and professional. We did a slight increase for utilities for streetlights. The road work, We estimated that based off of trends. We weren't able to get that information from the county, so that's just an estimate. Bond and interest, the same. And then the community center has a slight decrease from last year. The planning and zoning department has a decrease. I think in code enforcement's the biggest one that is estimated to decrease. And then the recreation board had a decrease. And I'd like to point out that there was 50,000 that was on capital that was recommended for the recreation board, but because it was capital, it would go to Department 900, which we'll see that when we look at that Department 900 capital outlay, that's what ties to the capital plan.
Okay.
We've got the park improvements, that's the $750,000 for the pathway, and then $50,000 that was for, that the recreation board had requested for playground.
So can I go back to the planning and zoning department? The planner fees, the board did approve a $45,000 fee for the master plan as well. I don't see that in here.
That would go in amended 24-25, correct?
When is it taking place?
It's starting now?
And it-
Yeah, it'll be in this year,
Okay.
not in this.
Even if it
So would
runs
it go
into next year?
would it go into the building department budget?
It's a year-long process, pretty much, yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about it.
The master planning, it's done by the planning commission and the planning consultants, and it takes about a year, depending on how deep they get into doing the master planning and the kind of studies and research and outreach they have to do. So it will go from now until for almost a year.
If it's starting now, would probably be an amendment, whatever impacts this current year,
Okay,
and then probably do an amendment to whatever is left over.
okay.
So we believe that that 800,000 under park improvements is going to change significantly because it was a grant. Is that correct, Treasurer Otto? For the park improvements, the budgeted 25-26 says 800,000. We believe that number is going to change significantly because 750 of it was for a grant, correct?
The grant was to do the study, to see if it's a feasibility study on the pathway from Jennings
But I don't
Field.
think it's 750,000.
No, that was $3,000.
Yeah, that was not, that was, yes. The 750 is a number that the
They're
previous manager
expecting.
probably pulled out of thin air.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't approve 750.
Yeah,
No.
that's just a wish list number.
Okay.
So then when we come down to the bottom line, the net revenues over appropriation is a negative 734,537. And so if you take out that 750, that would put you in the positive.
And what about the, you had mentioned previously 100, or was it $1 million for the public safety building in the capital improvement plan from the previous manager?
That was for future years.
So can we look at that? Can we talk about that? Do we want to keep that? Do we want to keep just a non-specific $1 million?
We need the itemized.
Yeah.
You need the itemized list. That's not even a worry of this budget, though. Because the previous board, we asked everybody to put a CIP together. Every department had to put a CIP together, wastewater, police, fire. And so That's sort of, this was the first, nobody had had one before, right? Correct?
Or we haven't had an updated one in a long
Right.
time, yeah.
So-
Every 5 years.
So none of that is set in stone. That's, I mean, I could, it's a wish list.
Yes.
Is what it is.
So we look at that capital plan every year, so about, the end of the year, beginning of the new year. So basically, like November through January, we start looking at that. And so things change year to year. But, we want on the 10-year plan, if there's anything that that's upcoming or things that you want set aside. So I was gonna go back to. So in the budget presentation, it does have the itemized for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
And that $1 million is on there. That's for future. Does anyone have any questions on the general fund?
I just have one thing just to ask. So taking out that $750,000 would probably improve this budget greatly.
Yes.
Okay. Because then I looked at the road work, and we have down almost 500,000 for road work, and we may not do that either.
That's what's set by the county. That's the Washtenaw Road Commission.
That's what they want.
That's what they want. That's not what we approved, though.
It maybe had considered the email that I just received from them
Well,
today
this
that
was,
forward. I don't, I'm just suggesting it.
I'm thinking
There was-
the one that you sent today is in this year's budget.
I don't know, but you indicated that it was never brought to the board, and I don't know.
The capital improvement plan was never, but
No,
It
regarding,
was brought to the board, we never voted on
we
it.
never voted on it.
it was on the drainage, the culverts?
Correct.
Okay,
But we never voted on that either.
yeah, so,
And I think that's the one, the culverts are the ones that are in the budget now, in the current budget.
The current budget, I think, is the roads and the culverts,
We're not in it?
if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay, well, there.
that's, yeah, because I had brought that up before to.
Okay,
Ms.
there you go.
Cougier's. Yeah,
That's a concern, though. Yeah, because it would come under county drains, under road work, and you're only showing 38,000 and 35,000 for this year, so.
So that's another one that's, we get from the county. And sometimes we don't get it in time when we do the budget, so we
Yeah.
set this based on. Yeah, the culverts were something that were separate and additional.
Okay.
And then we'll go to the building inspection fund. And that same stayed overall pretty close with a very slight increase. So there's no real changes there. I will say that this does not include the additional building official that you were looking to hire. I budgeted based off of how we are currently doing things. So until we have someone hired and know what that rate would be, we chose to go off of this. Does anyone have any questions on the building funds budget? So then lastly, we have the wastewater treatment fund. So we budgeted some increases in revenues there, coming to $2,025,000. So the big increase is the sewer flat fees. then we get down to some of the expenses. So we budgeted for 3% increase in the salaries. And that's, slightly higher. Legal and professional, we budgeted for an engineer, I think related to the sewer project. So that's a slight increase. And then operating costs were pretty close to last year, just a slight increase. In transportation, budgeted a decrease. And then in the capital outlay, we see that 3.6 million for the sewer project. And so you can see 3.7 million is in the current fiscal year, and that probably, I think the project isn't estimated to start until next fiscal year. So that's basically your 3 million.
So the bond that we just approved recently was for 7 million. So this 3.6 million is that half of it? And then the other half would be the 26-27 budget?
Well, so we budgeted it in 24-25, so if you see in that second column.
Oh, I did see that. I was going to ask about
Yep,
that.
That was for the first part of it. That's when we estimated.
Okay, and this is for the second part.
It probably won't happen this year, so those two combined make up your total.
Okay, all right.
And then for the sewer fund, you'll see that it's the net appropriations, or net revenue of appropriations is a negative 3.3 million, but then there's the bond that covers that.
Right.
So then the fund balance is okay, looking at that.
Yep, at the end.
Yep. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? No?
I got one.
Yes.
And this goes back to the capital improvement plans. We got to approve the parking lot at the community center, right? That's just not
Right.
common, because that parking lot, it's that, whatever it is, the rock and grading.
Rocky thing, yeah.
I mean, I think that's what they wanted. I don't see why we'd pave over it right yet.
Part of it had to do with, there was a drainage issue, and they wanted to avoid having to put all that drainage in under the parking lot. It would have just been best to do that anyways and to pave it.
Well, it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, they got the grant, got that done. They plowed it fine this year. I'd say we saved 50 grand right there, and that goes for the building official.
It goes for what?
Use it for the building official that we didn't budget for.
Yeah.
So, there you go. It's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Ms. Chick?
I don't have a question, I just want to say that this was really good. It's the best one yet, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Only? Okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on, no announcements, petitions and communications. Anyone want any comment? This regarding the budget study? Okay. Board member comments, clarifications, Mr. Only?
None at this time.
Everyone's shaking their head. Anybody?
No, we're good.
No? Okay, very good. Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Supported by Mr. Only. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Broadcast. I'd like to call this Northfield Township Board of Trustees meeting to order, April 8th, 2025. Please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Manley, can you please call roll?
Donner.
Here.
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 Lee.
Here.
Moco. Here. Manley. Here. Roman.
Here.
All here.
I make a motion we approve the minutes from March 25th special meeting and dispense with reading.
I'll support.
Supported by Donner. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Make a motion we approve the minutes from March 25th, the regular meeting, and dispense with reading.
Support.
Supported by Manley. Any questions, comments, or corrections on that? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Supported by Otto. Any questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Only.
Maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot here. Never mind. I will come to it later in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Have a motion to approve. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Make a motion we adopt the balance of the agenda.
Support.
Supported by Chick. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Petitions and communications. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Trustees may do so now for a time period of 3 minutes. Just please step up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Hi, Jack Flynn, Robertson Brothers Homes, 6905 Telegraph Road. So I'm here to discuss the amendment to Chapter 36 zoning ordinance to include architectural design and building material guidelines. So I actually presented our recommendations to the Planning Commission on March 19th, and as well as the Planning Commission and the planning consultant both seem to favor our recommendations or some of our recommendations, and the motion did not include our recommendations at the end, surprisingly. So I'm just going to cover some of our recommendations and our reasoning behind it. So we've seen a draft of the supplementary regulations for architectural design standards from McKenna, and we applaud the efforts to establish criteria for good design and largely feel that this is a positive step in the right direction. This is an important path for our community, and we have a few suggestions that as a practitioner in the community, we believe will lead to more effective results. So regarding schedule regulating exterior building walls, we feel strongly that a limitation on siding will lead to monotonous design, and that high-quality siding can provide for much more creative design elements and variation from one house to another. There are several types of siding besides horizontal that provide for rich detailing and theming, such as shake, board, and batten styles. So limiting this to 25% will reduce developers' opportunity to offer unique elevations in your community. Additionally, the 50% masonry stone minimum is appropriate for front elevation, but less so for the side and rear elevations, which will have less visibility, inferior window and door surface areas, thereby leading to more expensive homes with really no additional value for those seeking quality housing in Northfield Township. So we suggest that a 25% minimum on only the side and rear facades is a more appropriate balance. Lastly, we fully agree with the need for an anti-monotony clause, and Robertson includes this concept in all of our communities, regardless if the municipality has a specific requirement. However, we encourage that the removal of the anti-monotony requirement for homes located across the street and diagonal for the simple fact that this will become an unwieldy process to manage for both our sales staff and for the township staff. Ultimately, in our experience, it will lead to an unhappy potential home buyer that are later told that the home elevation and or the color package they have selected is not permittable. However, we fully support the township's effort to ensure that 3 houses in a row should have differentiating architecture. In reality, this requirement to have additional styles will organically lead to a diversified housing stock, and at the same time, allow home buyers to select the homes they want to purchase instead of being pigeonholed into given lots. So in summary, we believe that Northfield Township should pass an ordinance to ensure good design in its new communities, and the language drafted by McKenna is appropriate with modification of the few points that I've just discussed. So I'm asking that you please consider our recommendations, and the slideshow I handed out is just to show different elevations of siding. You can see the first one is more of like a farmhouse style, which is very attractive in our opinion, and that may be subjective, but it's just to show that it can be attractive and allowing creative mix of siding and brick in your community.
Thank you. Your time's up, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Anyone else from the public? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll go on to any board member comments or clarifications. Mr. Moko.
I gotta say, I'm in agreement with this gentleman. I don't know how not trying to knock the planning commission, but I don't know how you can say it's okay to be 100% brick or mason. You can't only do 25% vinyl siding, which is almost every home in this community. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. No correspondence. Old business is the Earned Sick Time Act. Two points on this. Authorize deputy clerk to begin accrual of ESTA sick time for applicable employees and discuss additional recommendations from the Personnel Committee. Would somebody from the Personnel Committee wish to start the discussion on this?
So right now, basically, we're out of compliance. And we have two or three employees that are part-time that need to be covered under this Michigan's Earned Sick Time Act. I think right now what we would like to do is address the part-time people first. If the board doesn't want to move forward on full-time employees yet, we still have the 72 hours of paid sick time in a single year that is covered under our, I think, 96 hours of PTO. But we don't have anything for part-time staff. So we're requesting if that we could move forward and make a motion to provide accrued sick time for part-time employees that make less than 30 hours per week, up to 36 hours per year of sick time.
Is that your motion?
That would be my
Was it
motion.
30 hours per week or less than 20? I thought the people concerned were less than 20 a week.
Well, part-time is,
I'm sorry.
isn't part-time less than 30? Yeah. So,
1 hour for every 30 hours.
Every
Yeah.
30 hours. Okay.
so it doesn't matter if, say, 1 week they're doing 5, the next week they're doing 10, next week they're doing 10, and the next week they're doing 5. Even if it's a whole month, they've earned 30.
But just for those employees.
Yeah,
And it's 2 to 3 that we have?
isn't it?
There's 2 and then 11 firefighters.
Oh, okay. Is,
But Chief had,
and,
Chief had mentioned a point regarding the firefighters, even though part-time. Is there?
So that,
Support on your motion before you discuss
Oh,
it?
yeah.
okay, I'm
I'll
sorry.
support it.
There was a motion by Otto, supported by Chick, and now we're discussing it. Okay, I'm sorry, Chief, go ahead.
I apologize. So again, I think last time we discussed this, it's ever evolving as we go through this process. And in the most recent FAQ that came out, it did point out that even though we're covered under collective bargaining, there's no language in it. And according to the FAQ, that since there's no specific language about it for the paid on call or part-time, that they would be accruing it. I've sent an email to Stacy Belisle. She just hasn't gotten back to me yet because this is an ongoing chain that I believe Ms. Manley was originally part of and Ms. Otto was a part of, that seems to have changed from the previous FAQ.
Right.
So that's my concern is I mean, I have one administrative staff person that would qualify no matter what. The union contract, now there seems to be a little bit of talk about whether they're going to qualify for it or not, because there's no language for it specifically. And I don't have an answer for you. I'm just filling you in on.
Right.
Yeah, and it's changed from the last time that we talked.
Okay. Last time we had this discussion on this.
Just,
So are we voting to add it to everyone or just those two?
Can you repeat the motion again, Ms. Otto?
It says provide accrued sick time for part-time employees that make less than 30 hours per week, up to 36 hours per year of sick time accrual. That would be including the firefighters.
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, all in favor, excuse me, is this motion going to cover the authorization of the deputy clerk to begin accrual? You didn't mention that in there. So that's obviously what you want to,
Yes, actually, we should, I want to include that we backdate it to February 21st, 2025.
okay.
I'll amend my
Is there support on the amended motion, Ms.
I'll
Chick?
still support.
Okay. Does that, is there any other of the additional recommendations at this time, or would you like to do this motion first, or is there anything
I
else?
want to do this motion first.
Okay. So, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. So, do you have additional recommendations?
Well, I would like the board to consider, because if we do have full-time people, and we have to allocate 72 hours of Michigan earned sick time to them, that means only 24 hours of their 96 hours is actually used for PTO. They can't move their 72 hours, they can't move it over year after year. They have to use it or lose it. And then that only means if they have any time left, 24 of that is dedicated to PTO. So that's how I'm looking at it. And I'm wondering if we should increase it from 96 up. I'm just throwing it out there for a consideration. We really don't have to do anything now because it is covered within our 96 hours. That's all I'm saying is we may want to consider.
So, there's,
I'm not making a motion on this.
okay, very good. So if the last time we discussed this, we tabled it, but we didn't motion to have the personnel committee to further investigate it with the labor attorney. Do you need that today?
We've already talked to the labor attorney on this, and we just haven't heard back from her. On
Right, that's
anything.
what I'm getting at, I guess, is that was like at our last discussion of this. And I think, well, a couple different people reached out without result. And I don't know if there's any more changes in the whole thing until, I guess it's looked at further, so.
I think it really is up to the board to decide if they want to give more time off. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, beyond the 96 hours.
If we were to consider it, I think I would prefer some fresh information
Okay.
and a review by the labor attorney and present it in a different piece of information that we received from last time. So
Okay.
that's my preference, but Ms. Chick?
No, I'm just saying that they have enough hours to comply with the 72 hours, so we don't have to do anything with that. It was just the part-time people that needed to be coming into compliance. So basically, the full-time people and the part-time are all set right now, and you're just asking if we want to give them additional hours,
That's all I was.
even though they can use their 72 hours for whatever they want.
Right, okay. That's all I'm, You covered it.
No motion necessary,
No motion to,
but the Personnel Committee will further look at
yeah,
it.
if you want us to, we can.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else on this topic? No? We'll move on.
And April thanks you.
New business number 1 is consider proposal from Tetra Tech for a wastewater treatment plant capacity analysis. Mr. Rubel, please.
Yeah. Treatment.
Good evening. Through most of my service to Northfield Township, developments have moved, there have been few and far between. Things are moving a lot quicker right now, and you have quite a few on your doorstep. And Mr. McDonald and I, for a couple months now, have been talking about the impact of those on the plant, and for he and I both to try to understand better and advise you and Planning Commission, other folks that have an interest, how that development will impact the wastewater plant. Believe it or not, we really haven't looked at the performance of the processes at the wastewater plant in darn near 30 years. It's a long time. We've looked at the condition of things, but as far as looking at how each process is actually treating the water and whether it's up to the current specification or it's showing age and maybe deteriorating a little bit, that just hasn't been looked at in many decades. And with the development demands or requests on your table, we really think that's important. I know I feel a little bit handcuffed when Brian and I talk about how things will impact the plant, just not having done that in decades. So he and I had talked through it multiple times and really think it's time to take a look at the plant, really from start to finish, and look at the capacity of each one. We'll do both a paper analysis of that, and if we can't do this for every process, but his staff can gather actually data, water quality data, and look at it in the lab, and then we can determine, is it removing as much of the, I'll call them pollutants, the waste, as we would like it to remove, or should remove if it were new. And then once we have that, we'll have a much more accurate picture of what additional connections how that will impact the plant. So it's a combination of doing some things on paper, comparing it to some industry standards, and then doing some sampling data as well, just to make sure that actually real life is performing like the textbook tells us it will do. So that is the proposal in front of you to start that process. It probably will take 6 or 8 weeks to get through the bulk of that. It might take a few weeks longer because we may decide to do some sampling where we want to gather data for a couple of weeks, have him run it in his lab, and then take a look at it. So it will be a very interactive process between Tetra Tech and the wastewater staff. So I think it's important they understand what we're doing, what we're finding, and I think it's important for us to listen to them about what is working well at the plant and where they need to plan for an improvement as well. The other thing we have in here is to take a look at the past cost opinions that were developed to expand the plant at some point in the future. I can't tell you when that will be, but we haven't looked at that in about 10 years now, and I don't think it's any surprise that inflation kind of ran rampant here during COVID, and a 2016 cost opinion certainly would not reflect the price that it would cost today. So we think that would be also valid to take a look at what the next improvement might cost. We will complete our work. It will probably be a series of spreadsheets and things, but we will write that down into some sort of a report that Brian's staff can keep on file and help them make decisions in the future. And of course, I'd be happy to come back and share, the high-level results with you folks when we get done with that. So I think that's a pretty quick overview of what we have in mind.
I was going to ask a question. Mr. Rubel, so when the board met on March 11th, this past March, regarding the master plan budget, when we were approving the budget for the master plan, I provided the information to the board that your estimate would be for an analysis for the planning commission if they were to request an overall look at our entire system for an amount. Would this had been part of that review that you would do for the planning commission if they were to request that?
I believe the budget I previously shared with you was more of on the sewer side of things, the pipelines, and not so much the plant, whereas this proposal is strictly on the plant. So I believe if I am asked to come back and look at the sewers, I will need an additional budget to do that.
So the amount that you indicated, which I believe was like from 40 to 60,000 in there, would not include looking at the wastewater treatment plant?
It did not have any extensive look at the plant, no.
Okay. So, and I know you were been asked for next week's planning commission to be present, and they're doing that as part of the master plan review. That's why I asked that question, because if it were to be a combined effort, if that's to happen, I would think, well, maybe we should wait till that meeting and see what the planning commission is going to request. But seeing that it doesn't connect, I mean, I thought that it might, because, I mean, all the sewer pipes go to the wastewater treatment plant, but.
Clearly they're related. Most of my service the last 10 or 20 years has been on sewer planning, but this would actually start to look at the plant.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Ms. Chick?
So where I'm trying to get this straight in my head is that you say there hadn't been a study done for about 30 years on the plant. We did an asset management plan in 2015, which was, I assume, because we were adding an equalization basin directly, that would have included a study at the plant as well. I hear you saying about doing different things like lab testing and stuff like that, but as far as the equipment and everything and how the system functions, I would assume that would have been part of that plan. Then we did another plan in 2020 on the system as well, which was the sewer system, but it also goes to the plant. And and then we did another study for the fund, the sewer fund that just went past. So what's missing, what piece of information for you is missing that we should have that would help us to make good decisions about the plant and the sewer lines? I know that there's a lot of back and forth and conflict going on in the south end about what we're not able to do, what we're not able to do, what they need, what the sewer lines need, and then looking into the future. And actually, there are capital improvement plans in the 2020 plan and in the 2015 plan that notates every single piece of sewer line that is needed going forward. I think it was one plan was for at least 20 years, so we're there. But I'm trying to figure out what we don't have from the studies that we had already done that you feel we need. And my other question is regard to testing. The state requires that we have to meet certain standards. Aren't those usually tested anyway?
Yes, you asked me several questions.
I'm sorry.
No, they were all very good
If I
questions.
don't get it out at one time, I'll get it. I won't.
I'll go through them the best my memory can recall.
Okay.
So they were all good questions. So the asset management plan in 2015 primarily looked at the condition of the assets at the wastewater plant. Were there cracks in the concrete? Is the pump nearing the end of its service life? What that plan did not do was do calculations of the performance of the equipment. How well is that removing the solid matter, the waste products from the water, numerically? So equipment ages, it doesn't perform perhaps as well as it did in the past. It may, we're just not sure. We'd like to go through it piece by piece and analyze it and measure the data and see, is it removing 80, 90, 95% of the waste like it should be by textbook? I have not done that in decades. The nearest question you asked me about that, I think, is the limits that you have in your permit. Yes, you are required to treat the wastewater to a certain limit. That performance will change as you add more flow to the system. It will become more difficult to remove that as the flows increase. So we would like to look at how that equipment will change as we add more wastewater to it, a higher rate of wastewater to it. That has not been calculated in many decades. And I think I missed a question.
So my question was, what does that tell us if we have to make decisions in the future on the plant?
Well, yes, Brian and I are flying a little blind right now with all the development requests you have. Both he and I are a little nervous if he can continue to meet that permit limit with the higher flow rate that will arrive at that plant.
Okay.
That's the primary question we'd like to have answered with this. Give us some certainty that that is the case, and if it's not, that we identify what we need to do to improve that plant to make that happen.
Okay, so, and regarding the flow that's coming from, or will be intended to come from the south end, should everything get approved, when the other study that Mr. Roman spoke to, that was including that kind of a study of the whole system from the south end to the north end to the plant?
That's a planning level, and the budget that I provided him was for sewers only,
Right,
not the treatment, how the treatment plant would perform once that flow got there.
right. Okay, so the two different studies, if they're combined, would be a study from the south end all the way to the plant. I don't mean combined, I mean if you did both of them.
Yes, but I want to be clear. What I do not have in the scope that we're talking about tonight are multiple alternatives of land use plan in the township. I'm going to look at one or two maybe, but I picture your master planning process to have a handful, 7, 8 different scenarios of land use.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure exactly that scope. And I don't have budget here to give somebody a definitive answer for all 7 or 8 of those.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
just one more, I apologize.
Oh, that's fine.
So we're assuming, because we're basically going to be at capacity should everything get built out in the south end, we're not going to have any huge amounts of sewer capacity left to actually do any big development like that again in the township. So, right. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out what the point of doing land use study is going to be helpful unless we're planning on expanding the sewer system.
All good questions again. I want to make sure that if all these developments on the table are approved, we're not digging a hole for ourselves.
Exactly.
That Brian can meet his permit. That's the biggest question.
Okay.
Right, but I have a comment regarding what Ms. Chick said, and we can go to Ms. Otto's question. But I think that's what the Planning Commission's concern is that they need to know possible changes. You described like looking at several scenarios. Well, with the situation that we have, there aren't several scenarios.
Or,
So that's where it's at. It's a decision of what can be looked at, changed, or otherwise in the master plan to reflect what we have capacity for and so forth. And then knowing that if something were to go in, the upgrades to that whole system would have to be burdened by somebody. And we have yet to discuss that as a board yet, but the scenario you're giving where you would have to look at several scenarios, it's not there now because we're about at the max of that system at this point. So I think that's more what the Planning Commission is trying to clarify But I didn't want to give you the impression that they don't really have an option to throw out more than one or two scenarios, but that's just my comment. But we'll go to Ms. Otto's question.
So my question to myself is, what is the results that we're trying to get out of this? So I have three things that I figured out, and you just basically explained it. One is just the performance of the plant, how the plant is performing based on what we have today. So that is the current proposal that you're asking for. Then my other question is, will it determine capacity at the plant with the development? And the answer of that is no, because that would take another sewer study in order to determine, once that development is done, we would have to have another sewer study to determine where are we at with the capacity at the plant. Just a minute.
Go ahead.
I think you're going to know that with this study.
With this study?
Yep.
Okay, that would help. Then, my next question is, determine the expansion efforts based on the percentage of growth that we are outlining in the master plan. That right there is my biggest concern right now. Is that we're mentioning something in a master plan, and I don't know if we have the capacity to fulfill it. So that, to me, would take a planning study.
Yes, this will help me answer that question fairly quickly, fairly efficiently, but
Okay.
I don't necessarily have that analysis in here today.
Okay,
It would give me the foundation to answer that very quickly.
okay.
I'll go to Ms. Manley then.
I guess this is more for Mr. McDonald. Is this something you want, that you feel that we need? Because this is your thing.
There's different variables in this, so we haven't even gotten the new gravity sewer in yet. That could help us out tremendously. The prison, they're currently working on putting in a new gravity main and a new force main up our drive. I haven't heard any word on that. That will help us out. So there's different variables. So having this study done at the plant will help us out figuring out what is the next step we would have to do in the event of worst case scenario. That pretty much sums it up. And then that will give you, I would assume, more clarification on, okay, this is the end result or this is the end of how far the township wants to expand, because we only have so much property at the plant to do another expansion, and that's it. So it's just, take it under advisement from Brian, and I think it would be beneficial to have it done. Go ahead. It depends on, well, we have all this development coming in, so we would have money from the development to help with the North Territorial. Now, the plant expansion, I don't know. Probably not. We'd probably have to do another bond. But the study? Oh yeah, the study. I'm sorry. Yeah, the study. Yeah, I have it in. Yes, I'm sorry.
That was the question I was gonna. Yeah, it's gonna clarify it, but that was gonna be a question of mine. You're okay with this?
Okay.
Study coming out of your budget?
Yes, absolutely.
Very good. And Ms. Chick had a question, but
I didn't have a question and a
Okay.
comment, but I kind of heard it, someone
Okay.
said something, but it did come up at the planning commission. We do have a township policy, I found it last week, that says that if a developer or an applicant comes into the township and they have to add any additional infrastructure or studies or whatever, it falls on the applicant to do that, not the township.
correct. Ms. Otto.
So I wanted to go back to, because you made a comment about the state prison system.
Yes.
Are they doing anything right now to curtail the flow that is going through that plant? Are they doing any improvements or anything? My concern is because,
We've had project managers and engineers come up that's doing the work for the state.
okay,
The last thing that I've heard was, doing pre-bids or having bids, and that's the last thing I've heard.
Okay, because I was hoping they're doing it now, because I'm afraid if they hold off any further, that money may not be there.
Right?
Understandable. Yeah, I haven't heard anything else.
Okay.
Mr. Moko?
I mean, my biggest concern is you guys have both said we have, for the proposed developments we have right now, there's capacity at the plant. The bottleneck was the 8-inch line or something like that. So why do a study when, to open a door, why would we pay for a study when if there's a developer that comes in and we're at capacity, let them pay for it? To me, this is unnecessary, I would think. If you guys both think we can handle what we have proposed now, I really don't care about anything down the line in the future, that let some other developer pay for it. That's my thoughts.
Mr. Only?
I think if we don't have this done, we're sending it down the pipe with our fingers crossed. We have, our fingers crossed, yep, we have the capacity. If we're not willing for this expenditure that comes out of his budget that he says he has budgeted, then I think we should put a stop on any development that's currently in the process if we're not willing to get the information to make sure that it can be handled. And then for the force main and what's coming from the prison, won't that reduce the rainwater infiltration to the system and allow for additional possible capacity? It'll improve the efficiency of the pipe and less infiltration, correct?
That would be correct.
Just my
That's
thoughts.
why I was asking, are they doing anything?
So the upgrades that we're doing now has the same impact because we're replacing all the lines and the connections and everything. And so that infiltration was actually, the worst of it was through the downtown area and through the wetlands. But the other line, is that, what kind of condition is that in right now? So, I mean, is there, do we know if there's a lot of infiltration coming through that line?
From North Territorial?
Yeah.
That lift station? Yeah, that's a force main. I mean, that's the newest
Right?
gravity main that we have. So,
Okay.
Mr. Moko?
Got one more question. We just had a study that Robertson and Gronow paid for 10 grand. That study said that we had capacity at the plant, didn't it?
That's a sewer study. It did nothing at the
Nothing.
Just pipe.
All right.
My opinion is, I'm not opposed to doing the study of the wastewater treatment plant, but we keep getting, and I probably said it before, we get snapshots of little of pieces here or there. If it contributes to understanding the system currently overall from North Territorial all the way up, I don't have an issue, and I hope that's where it leads. As you indicated, it would. You'd have a better, quicker understanding of the system if you did this one. So I'm not opposed to it. But any other questions, comments, Mr. Only?
If we approve this tonight, we have that study, and you said 6 to 8 weeks. Then I don't know the timeline for the force main that's coming through right now, or that's projected right now, and then the timeline for the state coming from the prison. But would it need to be updated, or would you have the information? Would we come back with needing another evaluation once that work's done? And then again, if we approve, I think we got like 4 developments coming at us. If we were to approve all those, would we need another one of these done?
No, this is strictly at the plant and its performance. That should be fairly easy. It's going to tell us, let me put it in simple terms. It's going to tell us how many REUs can be connected to the plant, residential equivalent units. So if the state project reduces the amount of infiltration, we'll see that in his flow meter.
Daily flow.
And that will just bump up the number of REUs. So No, for something like that, I don't have to recalculate.
All right.
I might, 3 or 4 years from now, I might say, well, the equipment's aged another 4 years. We can't necessarily rely on something that's that old, but I think this will give you clarity for
But
another.
there would be no reason to postpone this till that work's done.
I don't see any value in doing that.
Ms. Otto?
So I'm just going to make a comment. I asked Stacy McDonald and April to assist each other in trying to figure out how many out of the SADs that we have, how many, what were the total SADs or properties. This isn't based on REUs, so we can't really go there because they can't calculate it, and I may have to work with you on it. But what were the totals and what is the available properties that have not connected yet? So out of the Whitmore Lake Sewer District, there's 24, and mind you, that one has not been completed. I think we got 10 more years on that SAD, around that. 15 are available. 15 parcels are available to connect. Lake Point, that's been paid for. There were four connected. There's none available there. 7 Mile Road, there were 22 properties that paid into it. I think there's like 3 that never paid into it. They would never connect. And so there are 16 properties that have not connected into it yet. And then the North Territorial Sewer, we have 40 properties and 29 haven't connected into it yet. So for me, I know that one residential is an REU, but when we talk about North Territorial, that's a whole different ballgame because we have like commercial, which is like all Myers property could have like 100 REUs or 1,000 REUs. I'm just guessing. So eventually I would like to know what that all equals up to. And just so the board understands, I did do an ask to Mariah and asked her to check out each of the SAD contracts to see if there was any type of language in the contracts that had perpetuity in them. I do have the contract for 7 Mile Road. There's no perpetuity in that. So,
What are you referring to by perpetuity?
meaning that we would have to hold those REUs in perpetuity.
Yeah, my understanding was that of the ones that I know of, which was down in the Whitmore Lake Road, North Territorial area, and that was in 2013, there was not a reserve, they're not holding them.
No.
There was no
There's
way
not
to hold
on-
those REUs.
And there's not a 7 Mile Road either. I
Right.
think the
And I
only
think
one
this-
that had a promise was Green Oak,
And that's going to be,
and
which
that's
is,
termed,
Gone.
that contract's done.
yeah,
So,
November.
in essence, though, your question, overall, though, so
I just-
everyone understands, there's really no reserving of the REUs. And
Right.
so I saw
She
a
didn't think it
response
was.
from Fink.
Yeah.
And I saw information from the 2013 board motion and so forth. So just to make it clear, there's not a reservation of REUs that
Okay.
we know of. Ms. Chick?
On that note, not related, the email that we got from the attorney, I would like to pass that on to the planning commission. The attorney said that I needed the board's approval to release that to the planning commission regarding the SADs and the REUs.
I don't have an issue with it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I mean,
I don't see why not.
If
It's,
they're making a decision on the master plan, I mean, this is the whole point of the master plan. We can't be putting something out in the master plan that we can't support.
Right,
So we have to
I
have.
wouldn't have an issue sharing it.
thank you.
Mr. Only?
I'd like to make a motion to approve $28,500 to Tetra Tech for the wastewater treatment plant capacity analysis scope of work dated March 14th, 2025.
If you could state where the payment's coming from,
Yeah.
then I would support.
Yep. From the wastewater treatment fund.
I'll support. Any questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Mrs. Chick, would you like to make a motion for that to be shared? Does it need to be motioned?
I don't think you need a motion, they just, I can,
I
okay.
think you should.
I don't have the letter in front of me, I don't have a date or anything.
I have it.
I don't think you're going to pull it up.
The date. Looking for the date of the email?
We can move on to something else.
Yeah, we can move on.
The document itself isn't dated, but it was from an email.
I think probably the topic and the email from who it came from is probably sufficient.
Yep.
You probably don't have to quote the date, Mr. Only.
Okay, I'm going to make a
Board-client
motion
privilege.
to request the board to release the confidential letter, communication from Fink and Fink regarding the sewer REUs
I'll support.
and the SADs. Thank you.
Motion by Chick, supported by Otto regarding release of the information. Any questions, comments on that motion? Seeing none,
Since this is released to the planning commission, is it now public and it'll be in their packet? I just have no clue how that works.
yeah, it's public.
Yeah.
Yeah, made to the public, yeah. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is ordinance 25-02, amendment to Chapter 36, zoning ordinance to include architectural design and building materials guidelines. In our packet, we are provided the report from McKenna. And just to start, though, this is something that I think our township needed for, even when I was on the planning commission, I think I've tried to get some kind of design standards for like 10 years. So this is a good start. Is there anybody else like to comment or make comment on the report? And Mr. Only?
Just to clarify, this, when it says single-family residential or multifamily residential, this does not apply to, I buy a 5-acre lot and I build one home on it, correct?
not, right.
This is for developments,
Right.
like larger scale developments. not-
Correct. If you look on page 1, section 1B, the exemption, detached single-family dwellings constructed on existing lots or new vacant lot parcels larger than 5 acres are exempt from the provisions of this section.
So my next question would be, for example, we have a house on the lake right now, right downtown, that was just tore down. It's less than a 5-acre lot, obviously. Does that have to meet these standards?
Good question. I don't know.
I think there's some design standards in the downtown area, but I don't know if,
If these would supersede those?
well, there is, and I was going to speak to this regarding the Robertson request to add different types of materials. There is a paragraph in the ordinance that allows for subsection for modification, which allows the planning commission the flexibility to modify the absolute requirements of the ordinance if an applicant can demonstrate that granting such a modification elevates the quality of the building and architecture and meets the intent of the ordinance, as opposed to adding a whole bunch of new different materials to the list. They're not saying you can't, they're saying,
Okay.
show us what you got.
So then that would allow for the, I'm just going to use that because that's the one I see right now driving through town. If it did not meet these standards, they could go before the planning commission and, I guess, ask for a variance, right?
No,
No,
they
they're
would
just-
show that what they're building meets acceptable standards, and it gives the planning commission the option to base a recommendation on that modification. So
That's where I was kind of like, what's the difference between that and going to the ZBA for a variance request? You're giving the planning commission now some additional
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think this was reflected towards like a single home, like you're referring to, but it could be. But more or less, like when the planning commission is reviewing a development, they could consider modifications because it's a flexibility to meet a certain acceptable standard. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, in your case with the single home by the lake, it would probably be more effective for them to just get a variance if it was even challenged. And I don't know that it would be. That's something that I think the zoning administrator would have to answer, who's also the planning consultant.
To the ZBA for that one,
That's what I thought.
that one home, because of how it was located.
They already went to the ZBA to have the variance, though, right?
Yeah, did they?
Yeah, but this wasn't in place.
No,
though.
I'm
So-
saying,
but I'm just
she's
saying.
talking about the placement of the house.
Yeah.
Placement of the house.
So I'm just using that as an example. So a year from now, another home gets built. It's on a 1 acre lot.
Why they did that.
They could get a variance from these standards from the planning commission.
I'm not certain.
They can't get a variance.
That's how I read this
Has to
modification.
go to ZBA, yeah.
But just so everyone's clear and the people watching, though, I'll read the paragraph in the memo. The planning commission based its recommendation on the fact that the proposed ordinance includes a specific subsection for modifications which allows the planning commission the flexibility to modify the absolute requirements of the ordinance if an applicant can demonstrate that granting such a modification elevates the quality of the building architecture and meets the intent of the ordinance, just so everyone knows.
So then my next question is, if they aren't granted that modification, could they then go to the ZBA for a variance?
I can't answer it, I don't know. Like I said, it's a question for the zoning administrator. Really, I can't answer it.
Yeah, that didn't come up.
Ms. Manley?
Excuse me, I forgot one thought. So it was recommended 25% and planning commission went to 50% masonry? Is that what?
Where are you looking?
I'm not
That's on
looking at
page
any, I'm
4,
trying to figure
actually.
this out, what we're actually.
Number 3,
So we're saying it's minimum 50% masonry,
For what?
residential development.
A single-family residential or multifamily?
4 at the top. Number 3.
That says mixed use.
I'm showing it on
No,
page
number-
2.
Page 3,
Page 3,
Oh, okay, page 3.
Yes.
page 3, number 3.
number 3.
Page 3, number 3.
Yeah, it's also on page 4.
Okay, so that's what we're saying, we want 50% masonry.
Yes, and single and multifamily.
At a minimum. Yep.
And was it suggested 25% or?
I don't know that. Ms. Chick, do you recall?
I think so.
I don't think it was.
Okay, all right, thank you. Like, where did I hear this?
So, yeah, but in answer to the gentleman that had the comments, at the public hearing, the Planning Commission received comments from Robertson Brothers regarding some of the provisions of the new ordinance. The developer expressed concern regarding the percentage of masonry stone required on the exterior facades, the maximum allowable percentage of vinyl hardy board siding, and the anti-monotony regulations included the proposed ordinance and asked for changes. The Planning Commission received those comments, but chose to recommend approval of the ordinance as written. So they did consider it. Ms. Otto?
So the horizontal siding design that Robertson recommended, or the vertical, whichever it was, I don't see where it's even identified as horizontal or vertical in the points.
I think it depends on what it's made of.
Okay.
It's the material.
Yeah.
It's the material, okay. So my other question is, downtown, we had somebody put up a metal siding. Where does that fit in this? And it's metal siding, it's not,
The downtown has a design standard on its own if it's in the Whitmore Lake
it was,
District.
and it looks terrible.
So there's design standards specifically, there's what are they called, Ms. Chick?
Overlay districts.
The overlay districts, yes. So I don't know how that would.
Neither do I.
I don't know the
because I was told
exact.
It wasn't allowed, and the person still has it on the building.
That I don't know, but. What, as far as what? If it's a maintenance issue, typically not, but I don't know the specifics on this building that Ms. Otto's referring to. So, Mr. Donner.
I was just going to go back to what Adam was talking about the house. If I'm reading this right about Whitmore Lake downtown and the sub-districts, I think that house would be the WLDW, the waterfront.
Yes,
So
it is.
if I'm reading this right,
It is,
that doesn't fall into
right.
what we're doing here.
That's the overlay district.
So it'll be on page 1 under section 6, the very bottom. So I don't think that would fall into this.
Mr. Only.
I was just looking for some justification from maybe Mrs. Chick on why Section 3, the rescind clause, removal of Section 36, 736 mini warehousing.
Wait, where are you?
It's on page 5, Section 3, A, removal. Exterior walls of all storage units shall be of masonry construction.
Right.
That's being removed to,
And replaced with what's proposed here, which is that. So in the existing ordinance, there's a section on storage units, and it's mini warehousing.
all right.
The requirement of 100% masonry.
That's been a problem.
Yep.
So it
So,
would,
yeah, we had that in front of the ZBA at our previous meeting
Six.
with someone looking for a variance. We tabled it
Okay.
in
yeah,
hopes that
exactly.
this would get passed.
Yeah,
Because he was looking for a variance from that 100%.
Yeah, he came to the planning
And he
commission.
came to the planning commission, and we decided to table it because if we would have denied the variance per McKenna's recommendation,
Basically,
he wouldn't have been able to
yeah.
apply for another year.
in looking at page 2, it would be redundant having it in there because
Yep.
it's covered. So that's the reason for removal, I
That's
assume?
under commercial or industrial?
It could be either one.
An office?
Usually where the storage buildings are under commercial, in commercial, but there it might, I don't think it can be an industrial, but
they're
I
both.
think the ones that we have are in commercial districts. So it's basically saying the same thing.
So I'm going to ask a quick question. Does this, because I have nothing to compare this with. Has this material guidelines improved what we have in place?
Yes.
This improves it greatly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's what I want.
And
'cause I
not,
haven't
and not just
seen-
material, but also
whole ordinance.
architecturally, the standard, like offsetting of buildings that are attached, roof lines, overhangs,
That's why we didn't have much say in how some things were being done down there.
correct. So,
couldn't-
yeah, it's a great enhancement on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Only.
So hearing from the representative from Robertson Homes in the call to public, requesting the side mason area of 25%, do we just bring it up if we want to have that conversation? I mean, yeah, it's a pretty good evidence there, just visual evidence. Did the planning commission got the same information, maybe didn't get the visuals? Was there any specific reason that the planning commission didn't go with that 25% mason area on the side elevations? Was there any-
They discussed it, they didn't find the need to do it because they put in the modification clause.
All right, for that, all right, so that makes sense, that asking them to justify it
Yep,
on a per basis.
yep, because I mean, these are really nice looking, so, yeah.
So if there's no more comments, I'll make motion that we adopt the proposed architectural design and building material guidelines as presented with the McKenna memo dated March 27th, 2025, and as proposed and make effective immediately.
I'll second that.
Supported by Mr. Only. Any questions, comments on the motion? Yes, Mr. Moko.
I would support it if we move all the siding up to 50% across the board instead of just 25. I think that's a bit restrictive. I know they can go plead their case in front of the planning commission, but I don't see a problem with doing that.
You mean even for construction, for commercial as well?
I'm just talking about for residential.
Okay.
Understood.
I mean,
Miss Manley.
So 25% of it can be siding, 50% of it can be brick. What am I,
On a single family,
yes.
um,
What's the rest of it gonna be?
Doors and windows.
yeah, the percentages are the minimums,
I'm kind of agreeing with Nate on the,
or maximums, I'm sorry, maximum allowable percentages.
25% siding is pretty,
I mean, we just approved the Groves in the previous meeting. Would that meet these standards? Not that, like, they got in before these, but they weren't put to these standards, and they got a lot of siding on theirs. So
Yeah, I don't think it would have,
I don't either. So
so. Okay, we have a motion. Is there any other comments, questions?
Was there support? Oh, you,
Yeah, supported by Only. We'll do a roll call vote. Miss Manley?
yes.
Donner,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Manley, no. Moko,
No,
Only.
no.
Passes 4-3. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, next item. Consider budget policy. Ms. Otto?
Okay. So basically, I was very happy that, that Woodhill did their presentation tonight, so it gave you an idea of how the budget process works. Mainly, I understand that a lot of the policies and procedures are mandated by the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act of 1968. But when I went through a proposal of doing a policy, doing the policy, I worked with Woodhill to say, what would this look like if we showed this before the board? And they made some recommendations. And based on their recommendations, this is what I have presented. So they recommended to put the requirements from the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act in the policy, even though we have to follow it anyways. It's a reminder of what we need to do and what is required for us to approve our budgets every year. And then they said, add the other things at the end. So we have like the controller's office or Woodhill working with each of the department heads to establish their budgets. We don't have a policy on that. They have just been doing that as part of managing the budget process. So I included that. And then the office will present the budget workshop starting in early April to define a schedule. If we ever go with another, I'm going to say it this way, if we ever go with another outside of Woodhill and go with someone else, they could reestablish the whole process all over again. But since this is a policy and the board's adopting the way Woodhill is doing it, then we would have to change the policy. The one thing that we didn't do in the previous board, like I said, we reviewed the capital improvement plan, we didn't approve it. So there were things that were included in this year's board, this budget year, that were part of the capital improvement that the board didn't approve overall in the plan. And so what happens is, if you approve something in your budget, it's automatically approved. I think what is very important for the board to understand is they need to approve things prior to it getting into the budget, because once you start looking at that budget, you're not going to be able to find the details of anything. It's very hard to find where the details are. And when I brought it to Woodhill's attention that we did not approve the capital improvement plan, they were told that, or they were assuming that we did, that the board did at the time. So the other point on number 3 is finalizing, making sure that we make changes to the capital improvement plan, that we approve any of the annual wage increases, because there were some increases that were in this budget that the board wasn't aware of until after it happened. And then the road and drain infrastructure allocations, and then MERS insurance and insurance increases, and any big expenditures that are not identified in the capital improvement plan by the board. We should be able to look at this. We have enough time. It's April. We have until the end of June to look at all this and make sure that we've looked under every stone before we approve the budget.
So I'm making an assumption that the previous manager put these things in the budget that exceeded $10,000 and were out of his actual
Yes,
abilities?
yes,
Like 750,000.
like 750,000.
I mean, that's why I asked that question when she was presenting, to say like the max that the manager could approve is $10,000. That was
Yeah, so it
many
was put in the budget, the board approved it, and we go, wait a minute. We didn't know it was in there. So the adopted budget would include the revenue and expenditures, the amount of the surplus, like she said, the estimate of the amounts needed for deficiency, contingent or emergency purposes, and then other related fiscal conditions that the township board controller or the township manager deems to be useful. And, we have to approve these budgets within 30 days of the formal adoption. And then the controller is able to permit administrative reconciliations between the activities, this is all part of it. But what really always concerned me is, and I'm not saying, I'm going to say it this way, the last 3 boards that the 3 of us have been on, we've had situations that came up in each of the last 3 boards where things were slipped into the budgets and the board was not aware of it. And you got to stop that. The board has to be, if we're accountable for that budget, we have to know what's in it. And especially when we're not meeting our general fund policy, that is huge in this.
Ms. Chick?
Well, I'm okay with everything until we get to item 6, and it says the controller is permitted to execute administrative reallocations. That's different than reconciliation.
Reallocation.
Between activities. The last sentence says, this may eliminate the necessity for budget amendments for miscellaneous and insignificant amounts within state required. So what is considered a miscellaneous and insignificant amount, and what is the state required percentages? That makes me uncomfortable that the board's not aware that money's being moved around.
No, it's moved around within the department. So it means that, pardon me? Different GLs. Yeah, different GLs.
So it's not moving from one department to another?
No,
Moving
it's
within the department? Okay.
So say the police or the fire department have something that they allocated for, and they decided, we're not going to spend the money on that, but something else came up, and they're going to spend the money on it. What that says is that they have the authority within that budget to move that from one GL account to another.
And that's your decision, or it's not the controller's decision?
That's our understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is my question the same as yours about the number 6 on the last page? So you said, this is the controller permitted to execute administrative reallocations.
Yeah, so what it means is that they don't have to do a budget amendment for, say, like, if the police department wanted to use, money for equipment instead of using it for, vehicles, that she doesn't have to put a budget amendment in just to move it from one allocation within another within that department. That's what that means.
That's happening now?
Yeah.
So that's happening now, and we're looking to pass a motion to allow it to keep happening.
No, that,
So currently, if I have a budget item that's over budget, and I have a budget item that's under budget, I can take the money that's under budget and move it to the item that's over budget, and I don't have to have board approval because it's within my budget. And the controllers do that for us. So if I have something that's over, right now, I could take money from another section and put it in there because it's still within my budget.
And this will not change that, or this will
But this is.
This will put it into a,
but this is saying that she doesn't have to do an amendment in order to do that. She can just change it from one account to another. The money still stays in that department. It just is where she doesn't have to do an amendment in order to account
It
for it.
doesn't say per department, though, it says general fund. So like, it's like all-inclusive, isn't it?
No, they're not part of it. They
No,
have their own general fund, we have our own general fund.
So there's a general fund for each department.
Yes.
So I'm just looking for if there was any issues, that's all I'm saying.
No, this would alleviate some of the issues, or the excessive
Yeah.
changes.
Okay.
I mean, it's appropriate as long as it's within that general fund.
And then if I could go back, you said about your motion, saying, quoting Woodhill, why can't we just put a general term instead of Woodhill and then
Okay.
see how it proceeds in the future so that we don't have to change? If we were to not use Woodhill in the future, then we'd have to redo the whole thing. So can we change that to say, what would
From
you
the
like it to
treasurer?
say?
Recommendations from the treasurer's office?
I don't
It's my
know which.
recommendation.
Okay, yeah, I mean, because then, even if the process changed, we could change, we need
You
to
can
change the
change
policy,
You
but
can change the
I would
policy.
rather not name a specific
Okay,
consultant,
okay.
if that's okay with you.
Yep, that's fine. So I'll make the motion that the township board,
I just had another question.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just realized as I'm looking through this, the township manager typically works with the controller to create the budget. I don't see anything mentioned in here about the manager working with the controller. Wouldn't that be township policy? That's part of his responsibilities.
well, it says in number 1, controller's office will establish an annual proposed budget calendar, okay.
And distribute to the department heads.
But let's go back. The budget's really not the township manager's statutory duty.
He
It's
doesn't
the
have statutory duties, we
It- it's-
assigned responsibilities, yeah.
assigned responsibilities. It's the supervisor's statutory responsibility for the budget.
Right, he's not in here either.
No, but I'm not putting statutory duty, I'm not putting statutory duties
But,
in.
and it's the manager's responsibility, actually, in a township that has a supervisor to present the budget. That's actually a law.
Could you say that again?
It is a manager's responsibility to present the budget in the township where there's a supervisor and a manager. The manager presents the budget.
Was there an issue with how that's phrased then, or not, that you're concerned? Ms.
My
Chick?
concern is that there's no responsibility in this policy. There's nothing in the policy that shows the manager has responsibility working within the budget.
Do you want me to add something and then bring it back to the board?
Couldn't you just add it, can we add it now? And the Controller's Office will establish an annual proposed budget. Well, you got calendar, working with the manager.
See, one of the problems I have is that it's still the supervisor's statutory duty to do the budget. He can delegate it to the township manager, but it's still the supervisor's statutory duty to do the budget with the controller.
But it is the manager's responsibility to present the budget. That is law, isn't part of that.
I would like to see that.
Okay.
I don't recall
I
that.
did, I actually presented it
What do you,
last board.
so what do you suggest? Would you like a edit?
No,
I don't know where we're going.
I would rather go back and look at
Okay.
Okay.
the actual language.
You,
put it
you
in.
prefer that, and it's what you're proposing,
Yeah.
so would you like to make a motion so we can bring it
Yeah,
back at a
okay.
later date? Or
Yep, I'll make a motion to bring this the budget and fiscal budgetary management policy back to the board at a later date to include the township manager's responsibilities.
And the other noted corrections?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll support that. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. So item 4 was authorization for the township supervisor to execute a land division agreement for 4451 East Roy Road. And when I reviewed the packet, and I'm just barely aware of all the goings-on in this case, or this item, but to me, that we don't have enough information on this. There's, basically, this was going between the planning consultant, zoning administrator, with the applicant, and also the township attorney. So they arrived at this, and it took some time to, because there was changes, not only, there's changes by what the applicant was proposing, so it took some time. Now he's in a rush because I did have email contact with him since yesterday. But my thought is that I would like to table this till the next regular meeting when we receive a memo from the township attorney and if need be from the planning consultant, but I don't think we'll need that. Because when I brought it to the township attorney's attention, she hadn't reviewed this entirely yet, so it's kind of ahead of schedule. So just so everybody understands, but I would be more comfortable having the attorney's memo and background on the whole case, or what I'm being asked to sign before I sign it.
I would like more information too.
Yeah.
Because I had questions.
Well, I may too, but by the time we get the information, but, and I understand Ms. Durkin might have some more information on this, and I just found that today, so
So what are they trying to do? Are they trying to?
A lot split.
A lot split?
yeah,
So
it's,
they're supposed to split it into 3 instead of?
I don't know the configuration because
Oh,
there's
okay.
not enough information.
Well, I just
There's no
see 3
drawings yet.
property lines,
Yeah.
the 3 property parcels here.
But I think we can clear it up and
So
clarify it next.
one of my questions too is, why are we covering the cost of the record? For the deed?
Good question, but we can discuss it when we
Okay,
bring it
because we're
up.
not the ones that are
Which
separate.
item was that?
Number D, because we're not the ones splitting it, it's the It's the owner that's asking to have it split. They should,
Okay, I could ask that, I could pose that question
yeah,
to the
they should be.
township
pay-
attorney.
Yeah, they should be, they should be paying for it, not us.
So on this item, I'll make motion that we table it until the next regular meeting and have the, more information.
I'll support.
Supported by Donner. Any questions, comments?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 5 is discuss discontinuing the use of public safety building as a storm shelter. And I'll go to Chief Smith, please.
So the most recent storm we had a week and a half ago, the township public safety building, originally when it was built, was designated as a storm shelter. However, that was prior to the township offices moving into the building. So with that being said, our basement is filled with township property, with police property, fire property, that's unsecured from the standpoint of the general public. With the recent updates to the access management system, and prior to that, the bathrooms that are down there are not accessible to the general public as well. So the night of the storm, 10 people showed up at the front lobby, and luckily for them, Sergeant Basso was working, but then he had to stay with them. He was no longer allowed to go on the road because we can't leave them unsecured in the building. So based on what recently occurred and the inconsistencies with what the building looks like now from when it was designated as a storm shelter, I'm asking that that be removed, that our building not be designated. We don't have the staffing or the manpower to handle that.
Thank you.
So-
Ms. Masato?
So at one time, and I don't know how or why, and how it happened, but George Brown had keys to the township building, and he allowed people in?
So it was my understanding prior to the township moving in that there were, I was told it was George Brown and Mr. Iaquinto that had access to the building after hours for that specific reason. But based on the changes in the building and the occupants of the building, I don't believe that we're anywhere near close to being able to accommodate people now.
Right. So do those two people still have keys to the building? Okay.
No, because the access management system went in prior to them having the new system that I believe we have. So I don't know how it was designated. It was prior to me being chief, obviously, so I don't know what precipitated that being designated and how it was handled, but there's no way that staffing by us or fire can handle people. I mean, we have our officers on the road and our fire guys that are working, but if there's a call or emergency, there's nobody here. So now we don't have anybody to respond if somebody's here actually manning the people that are in the.
Yeah, I think that was the 2008 board that did that.
Mr. Only?
Is there any other areas in the township that are designated as shelters?
Not that I'm aware of, but my suggestion would be if the township would like to have a designated area, my suggestion would be the community center basement.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, not in the basement.
Have you been down there?
Hey,
I'm just saying, I mean, if you want to have a place that somebody has access to where they are not going to have,
Not going to happen.
not going to have to worry about township documents and equipment, I would suggest that, that's my suggestion. It would be the community center.
I think that's a good suggestion, and maybe that means we have to look at the condition of the basement at the community center and come up with a plan to make it available for public
Well, the fire
safety.
department's
I
been
mean,
down
it's for
there.
public safety, so.
What's it look like down there, do you know?
Oh, I've been down there. It's pretty bad.
I mean, to accommodate what you're talking about, obviously, I think there needs to be an inventory assessment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be an inventory assessment, some work done, shelving, things like that, but again, that basement doesn't have a restroom in the bottom, I don't believe, so there's some of those things that come into account, depending on how long it is. And most of the times with the folks that I talked to, they were either from Northfield Estates. We actually had a few people visit, maybe a couple years ago from Hamburg Hills, that showed up to take shelter there because they were told the same thing. So I don't know if that's being actively advertised, but that's something where we can talk to that community and make sure that they're aware that if this board does not want to do that, that they're aware that we're not going to be able to let them in.
Northfield Estates doesn't have their own shelter?
No.
Wow, wow.
And that's the main people that
This is the main draw, yes.
Still in all, these things don't happen always at regular hours, and there's still a concern by both police and fire that they would have to have somebody available to even do it. So it really, whether it's here or at the community center or another building, we still have the same concern that the chief has.
We could remotely open the community center. We could remotely.
I heard you, but if you,
If that's what we decide to do, we'll do that as a management system, so there doesn't necessarily have to be somebody physically there to open the door. We can remotely open it as long as somebody that has management access, the access management system, like myself and one other person. If it's a significant storm, I think somebody can push the button and unlock the community center to, if that's the route that is. Just know that that option is there, but I wouldn't recommend that here, with all the stuff that's downstairs and,
sounds like we may not want to with the community center either at this point,
I
but,
was down there 2 weeks ago when we did the remote, the access management system. I went to some that we did down there a couple of weeks. And there's a lot of stuff down there.
so there's a liability issue too. I'm sorry? Yes. So I'd like to, anyone else?
I would just say, it sounds like we got to get that community center basement cleaned up, so.
Not a storage facility.
So I'll make a motion that we remove the public safety building as a designated storm shelter.
I'll second that.
Supported by Mr. Only. Any questions, comments on that? And my only comment, I don't know, is it on the website or something like that? I don't know where it's, if
I don't
it's,
think it's on our website, but it may be on community-wide websites.
okay, so,
But we just have to, I mean, I can have my administrative assistant reach out to the HOA presidents of the communities and let them know.
Okay. So we have a motion, and all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
I don't know if it would be a motion or if it's just a memo to the community center. I guess it's, I don't want to get her title wrong. Community center manager or Parks and Recs / community center manager to maybe do an evaluation of what it would take to make that base.
Tammy's not physically able to do that, so someone would have to, yeah, somebody would have to do it for her.
She has an assistant.
If it's something you want to consider, we could bring it up at a future,
Yeah.
do some checking, and then,
What it would take.
yeah.
Put in
Bring it up.
an agenda request item.
That's the medical closet down there, right?
Yes.
Is that something we can direct the personnel committee to do?
What, clean the
Evaluation of it?
basement?
No, not clean it, but do an evaluation of it.
Have the ZBA do it.
Excuse me? No.
No, to do an evaluation of what actually needs to be done down there.
I think it needs a future agenda item request form filled out.
Okay, so item number 6 is consider renewal of Washtenaw County Sheriff Department dispatch service contract. Again, Chief.
So we have a service contract with Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, the dispatch center, that runs until 2027. And built into that agreement or contract is a 9% increase each year. So this is a renewal of a contract that already exists with the 9% increase. So my request is that, that this be signed by Mr. Roman so that we can move forward.
Any questions, comments? I hear a motion. I'm looking at something here. Anyone offer a motion?
I'll make the motion to renew the dispatch services from the Washtenaw County Office of, Washtenaw County Office of the Sheriff. Is there effective date?
It would be effective July 1st, 2000.
Effective July 1st of 2025.
Do you want the amount?
In the amount of,
92,101.
I'm trying to find, $92,101 per year.
I'll support. Any questions, comments? Mr. Only?
Is this dispatch services, is it provide for police and fire?
No, just
This
police.
is just police for county sheriff, correct?
Was that a question?
Yeah, he answered, yeah, it's
Okay.
just for police dispatch services.
Okay, so we have a motion still, we didn't vote yet.
No.
Anyone else have a comment? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Just a note, Chief, is this a copy I would sign, or are you going to provide another one?
Oh, the one that you have, you can sign and give to.
Okay, I'll set it aside, thank you. Item 7, authorized sale of non-functioning wastewater treatment plant truck. Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, we have a 2006 Ford F-250. It's fully depreciated. It's 19 years old. We'd like the opportunity to sell it. And that's it. It has a laundry list of issues with it.
What are we selling it for? And to who?
I have one gentleman that owns a small farm here in the township that is interested in it, just to use it on his property. So we haven't negotiated a price yet, because that's why I'm bringing it to the board. I was thinking $1,500 for the truck, but that's solely up to you guys.
That's fine, I just thought we would have, I see the price of fixing it, but obviously it's not worth fixing, but we should have a price of what we're selling it for, but, or if you can just let us know in the future, I don't know what the board would like to do on that. Or if it's a concern.
Is it?
Maybe it's not.
Since the asset is written is depreciated and there's no more cost evaluated on it, it's no value
To us.
to us.
No, but if we sell it, where does that go to?
Oh, it goes right
it-
back to his.
Yeah, it goes
his
right
budget.
into the wastewater treatment
All right.
fund.
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
fine.
he could sell it for $1, or he could sell it for,
Do I hear a motion then?
I got one question.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
And is there any concern about transparency without putting it, say, Gov Deals or something like that, where, I mean, you got a buyer lined up, who knows if his neighbor's gonna be pissed, because he bought the wastewater treatment plant truck and he didn't have a chance to bid on it.
it's not, it's depreciated. That, when it's that low, there's,
It does, I mean, I'm just saying that's the way a lot of big companies went to, because the way stuff got disposed of. So that was just my only concern, but if no one else is concerned, then no worries.
I had similar concerns, just of like transparency. Who's it going to? Why did they get offered it? It's not I'm fully on board with us selling it and the money going to the wastewater treatment plant, but just how it's handled, I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not.
I don't either. I'm either way. It's fine by me if that's,
I guess in the past, we've had police and fire have fully depreciated items that they had to put out to the public. Am I correct?
was that auction or?
So the police department and fire department utilize govdeals.com for sale of assets. So, you know, if I have a truck or Chris has, like, I think he uses air tank thing on GovDeals. So any equipment that's depreciated where we don't own anything on anymore, we put out to GovDeals and we take the highest bid on GovDeals. That's how we do it. So to eliminate that, so it is transparent. If somebody knows that we're selling a vehicle, it's out there for everybody.
I would be in support of going that route and letting that interested buyer know this is where it's going to be made available.
You might get it for $200 on
Yeah, I mean, if
Gov
there-
Deals.
yeah.
Truthfully, it could bite you
Yeah,
in the butt, but
like,
at least
but
it's transparent.
We're
that's
in the
all.
public, and in that Gov deal is saying, like, it is not operable, it needs in excess of $1,500 in work minimum, like list all that, and like you said, he's,
To me, if you put it on Gov Deals and you list exactly what you sent the board, that's gonna eliminate 90% of the people that are even looking to buy it, because they're gonna look at it and say, well, I'm not, I have to get it really cheap to get it fixed.
so.
I tend to agree, though. I mean, I agree with the concern and the way it should be done that way. I guess I believe we should do that. Anyone else got comment, question? So can you come up with a motion, please?
Do we need a motion to list this? I don't know.
Yeah,
Do we?
yeah, because he's asking you if he could sell it. And you're giving him direction to put on Gov Deals.
I'll make a motion to request that Mr. McDonald list the 2006 Ford F-250 truck with Gov Deals, with the list of work needed done to the public.
I'll support.
What do I need on that?
Supported by Chick. Any further questions, comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
And I guess for that, if you're not familiar with that, Mr. McDonald, could Chief Smith or Chief Bishop kind of be of some assistance with that, maybe?
Item 8, consider PD request for temporary drive at Community Park.
Mr. Roman, I am going to defer this issue to Lieutenant Powell to address the board as to what we're requesting.
Thank you.
Is this on? I apologize. I'm sure this seems last minute, but trust me, it's not last minute. This discussion occurred last year, and it fell on deaf ears. So, excuse me. Passing those out. The fireworks celebration is quickly upon us here. And last year was the first year we had this problem. And the problem, and I have these photos that we can put up electronically if you need be. If not, they're in your packet there. So there's only one, since the renovations at the park with the new paved parking lot, there's only one point of entry into the park. That creates a big problem for public safety. We're more or less hosting this event and approving this event and bringing in thousands of people to our downtown area, into a congested area. We're parking several hundred vehicles in the North Village Park. And I think we're asking for problems. And I'll use the word if as a big if and what if happens. I don't even want to begin to play the what if game. I just know that we need another point of ingress and egress out of that park, with putting all those people and all those cars in that park. If something were to happen, if something bad happens, we're going to look really bad, and we're not going to be able to provide the services that need to be provided. And that's from a police and a fire standpoint. So I brought this issue up to Supervisor Roman. Trustee Muko and I also discussed this. The three of us walked it together on separate days. I don't know if I have the right answer. I was talking to Chief Bishop today. We'd really like to see the second point of ingress and egress come out to Barker Road, but I don't know how you do that. And what I've proposed here today to you, it's a temporary fix that may or may not work. Again, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a road guy, but I just know we need to do something. I don't see how right now we approve a civic event permit with the way things stand.
comment?
Sure. Ms. Sato?
So I'm going to give you the whole scope of the park. So part of the park, where we have it, the entrance today and the parking lot, and then there's the gravel parking lot. There was a design that showed that there is a drive that would go from that gravel, it was supposed to be a paved parking lot instead of gravel, but that paved parking lot was supposed to connect to a road that came out to the, on Main Street, right where you're proposing, the exact same thing that you're proposing. We were also supposed to have a road that came out, that went around, that came out between the buildings of the pizza place and where the house is. And that one was taken over by the non-motorized pathway. So there isn't any more that can come out on Barker Road, basically, at this point. We can't even go on the other side where there's the creek and the dentist office, the easement's not big enough for it. So that part was done. I would, what I'm going to say is, really, this board can decide that they want to move forward with it, but this is really the Washtenaw County Road Commission that we have to sit down with and go through this with, because they are the ones that approve it. They're the ones that approve whether there's another egress or ingress that comes out of that park area. We had to do it for the front of the park because we had two entrances, one going in and one going out, and they were the ones that combined it to one part. I would recommend that we have a rendering done by OHM, or go back to the one that we did have done and have OHM include it into the park rendering.
This is temporary, though.
Yeah.
100% temporary for one event, and then,
Temporary, because you're.
But you're going to do it every year. You're going to do it every year.
Maybe.
who knows what the park turns into next year? You know, I mean, this park you might not be able to do the
Is that
Fireworks.
path at Barker Road, is that gravel or is that paved?
paved.
It's paved.
But it's got,
And it has a pole in the middle of it, so you can't even,
That was a bad idea.
It has the bollards there that's preventing traffic from coming in and out, which is what we want.
what?
However, I don't know what the total cost was to have that non-motorized path put at the park, but I'm sure we don't want fire trucks and tow trucks.
Right.
I mean, inevitably, every year, we have tow trucks there because people are getting stuck in that field in the mud. I understand what you're saying by having engineers and OHM and this and that, but we're not gonna get that done by July. And these civic event permits are gonna be coming across our desk. And I don't know how
Well, we can't approve a temporary egress without the work of Washtenaw County Road Commission.
So is this what you're proposing, 2023, the same thing on the side?
Nope, so that's 2023, that's showing if you look at the right side of that photograph,
Yeah.
that's showing the old
Right.
path that used to go through there. So that's why I included that photograph. And then if you go to the next photograph there, I believe is an aerial of the way the park sits today with the one point of ingress and egress. And then the last photograph shows the proposed pathway with those two lots. And when Mr. Roman and I walked it with the forestry guy that gave us this quote here, and I apologize, this wasn't in the packet, I just received this. That is what we believe to be the least intrusive, least expensive. We're not cutting down any mature trees. It's just all invasive species that needs to be mulched. And we're not laying anything across that grass lot that the township owns. The only gravel that's going to be laid is back into the wooded area where there is currently an existing, I'll call it a two-track, if you will, that seems a little bit lower than everything else. And that gravel proposal there is to fill in that existing two-track that's in the woods. And that proposed pathway will wrap around back toward the existing gravel lot that has the telephone poles used as parking curbs.
So if this is just temporary for a one-day event, I have no problem with you going in, well, that's the two lots between the two houses, right? On Main Street, fine. There's a flower bed in the middle of it that's not supposed to be there either.
You already have an existing approach there too from the house that was
Yeah,
there.
there's an
So
approach there.
why-
There's
instead of-
people parking there too.
Why can't you just go on the grass?
There's no drive that goes into that, is there?
The curb is,
curb
it's
cut.
not a
There's a
solid
curb
curb.
cut?
It's a sloped curb, if you will. You can definitely get passenger cars over it. And then it's going to depend, too, on the weather. I don't know what that lot looks like, or if anybody knows what that lot looks like when we've had a lot of rain. Guess we could go down there now and look at it. We've had probably the most rain that, we're going to get, but, I don't have another solution. I don't have another answer, but I just know that if we're going to, we being the township, are going to host this event and invite all these people to our community, that from a public safety standpoint, we need a secondary point of ingress and egress.
So I'd like to make comment. I agree with Mr. Moko, having looked at it. It's temporary. I don't believe we need to go to the county. There, as Lieutenant Powell just described, there's an approach to the edge of the road there. So at one time, something happened there.
There was a house.
Okay, we don't, it's not as if we're doing this as a permanent fix, and it doesn't have to be open year-round. It's strictly for the 4th of July. So,
But we have to get a road permit for the 4th of July,
For the closure.
for the closure.
close the road, but
Yeah.
this is just simply an access that would
Well, I
solve the
would
solution
say
for the
ask the
public
county.
safety. Let me say my comment, and then we can all discuss it more. But to address what Lieutenant Powell is describing, I think it's a larger liability to sit and do nothing than at least provide a temporary drive through there. It's not going to be permanent, and we know that the park is already being looked at for development. So, who knows if it will be there next year at this point? We don't know. But
Mr. Roman, if you see my memo, we actually had somebody that had to leave the fireworks last year in the middle
Yes.
of the fireworks show going off. They had a family emergency at home, and we had to tell them they couldn't leave. So you can't do that.
So I'd like to hear from the other trustees, but I would like to make it work for the amount that you showed me there. I thought it would have been more, but I don't know what Mr. Moko thinks. I'm not an expert with road cuts or pricing, but if there's a way to make it work, I would be in favor of making it work and just make it a temporary drive for the time being. After the 4th of July, it could be blocked off somehow, so it's not used every day, but that's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
absolutely. The chief and I talked about that today is, once the 4th of July is done, we barricade that off.
Right.
Yeah, because the neighbors aren't going to like it up
Are
for
you
some
going
of
to use
your,
it next year?
What's that?
Are you going to use it next year?
if it's a base.
The board does with the park.
We've used the Barker Road entrance forever. Never once have I talked to the county or anybody. We go out right on the grass on an
I
easement.
say,
I know,
why
but
do we,
It's temporary. We've been using it every year for
why do
all
we
the
have to
history.
gravel it? Can't you just drive across the grass? Sorry.
The grass will be grass. The gravel's in the wooded section where it's crappy. It's wet back there. There won't be a gravel trail out to Main Street.
But then I would not call it a temporary road. I wouldn't call it anything.
Emergency egress, there we go. We
I
changed
wouldn't
the
even
word.
call it that.
Well, it's what it is, but let's discuss one, I'd like to discuss one person at a time. The camera's going crazy, trying to jump back and forth. So we'll go to Mr. Only, and then let's hit each trustee and get the comments. Mr. Only.
So since I've been helping out with the fireworks prior to last year, we've always pulled in and pulled out of an additional spot. Your image of 2023 shows that people pulled in on the north end of that property. There was no conversation at the board, no conversation with the county. So I don't think we need to call it anything. And I think that we really just need to look at where this money's going to come from. As you know, helping out with the fireworks committee and their budget, and I know they can't take this hit, but it's also not on the township's budget to pay for a special event. So I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Mr.
I
Mokel.
want it done,
Oh,
but I
sorry.
just don't know where the money comes from.
I will say that fireworks don't have the money. We
I know.
barely have the money for the fireworks $26,000 show we put on this year, or we're putting on this year. And for people at home who don't know, the police and fire is the only thing that the township donates to this. This would be the first monetary donation ever, short of you guys being there, thank you very much, that the township has ever made towards these fireworks. And it is short of the parade and the color run, if that happens, or this is the only event that brings the whole town together. Short of high school graduation parades or homecoming parades, I mean, this is it. So if we don't put this driveway in, I mean, the fireworks are done. Pathway, we don't put this pathway in,
Yeah, just.
temporary
Or
pathway.
anything, or egress.
That's all I got, is this, the fireworks is a labor of love, and without the support of the town, it's done, so.
Ms. Manley?
No, I'm all good with it. Just, again, like, where's the money gonna come from? And just, again, choose our words correctly.
Yeah.
Right, I agree, call it what you want. I don't know where we get the funding to do it, so if, Miss Otto.
So I've been trying to think, where do we get the money from? The other thing I could think, and I'm right there, I don't want any, I've been through it already with the park and everything, with the egress and ingress with the park. You got to choose your words. I don't want to call it egress, ingress, because then the road commission will look at it. And we've never called that other little thing that we used, it was just an area that came out of the park. And nobody ever called it anything. So I would rather just not call it anything and say that if you wanted to call it an emergency easement, call it an emergency easement. I don't really care, but I don't want to have any more, because then we have to go after permits and everything else. The only thing I could think about is if the park would, if the Park and Rec would use some of their money to help out.
What's some of their money? Which, were you speaking about, the Parks and Recs?
Park and Rec still has the $54,000.
What was that from?
It's in their budget.
Oh, okay.
But I'm.
That's what I needed to
But
know.
we're not looking to cover $12,325 of it.
Understood.
They were appropriating other things, so that's why we have always, that's why I brought up what I brought up, is because we've always thought about bringing that road out between the two houses, on those two properties. We've always thought about it. And I know we're not committed to it yet, but we've always thought about it.
Ms. Chick?
I'm all on board with this. I think that we could, even if we appropriate this money from the general fund, I think we could hit up some of our businesses for donations too.
I will say, most of our businesses that donate, without them donating to the fireworks, there's no fireworks, so I wouldn't go after
Oh,
them
they
for
already
this.
did.
For the parade
yeah.
as well.
You're talking all the marijuana shops, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, it's, and we're on a shoestring this year.
That's fine.
So-
I'm good with it.
Mr. Donner?
I'm good with it.
So, Mr. Roman, I just want to add, I talked to Chief Bishop today when we got this quote, and this quote says that it's for a 12-foot wide pathway. I think we may need to increase that width, not 100% certain.
Yeah, my concern, and I don't want to say, I don't want to say driveway, but I'm going to. We require a 15-foot driveway for residentials, and there's a reason for that. It's a turning radius of these trucks and things like that, should we need to get back there. And that's really the reason we're honestly talking about the pathway. is being able to get emergency equipment back there. We've downsized the equipment that we have committed to the post office for that specific reason, because it's so hard to get equipment back to those parking areas quickly. We can get equipment there, it's just not as quick of a response as we'd like. If you've seen the tankers, it takes a little bit of distance to turn those things, and our staff's really talented about doing that. But that's my only concern, is if you're gonna set a mark, maybe allocate for a little extra money so that we could get a secondary quote, or maybe find out where that happy medium is gonna be. If a 15-foot pathway is it, I'd like to see that.
I think we can take the total square footage of that, whatever it was, 450 foot by 12, and then we move the path over a little bit and stay in the same square footage, and I think we'll stay in the same price range.
So, I mean, it could change it considerably too. I don't know. I mean, it may require more clearing too. Chief, difference between 12 and 15, is that critical for your equipment? I mean, it's better than,
It is better than nothing.
no access. That's
I'll be
what
honest,
I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. I would not be comfortable going less than that. I just don't want to sink a fire truck in a pathway that completely blocks our secondary path. That would be my only thing. Now, we can do some logistics with the police department, and we can make it where potentially we could use the heavier trucks on the actual pathway and allow for that. But I think we still need to know if it's going to be there, and then we can work out logistically what our ins and outs are going to be for that property.
So do you think at this point, do we need to get more information from this person or not?
I think we can make it work. Like I
Okay.
said, the way you were there with them, Mr. Roman, the
Yeah.
way we went in and went back,
Yep,
I think we'll be all right.
okay.
So is the path going all the way around? Is it going all the way around to the parking lot in the back? Or are you just creating this path in the two lots? Is that,
The path is not in the lots, so the path is it'd be at the western edge of that grass lot. So when you're driving down Main Street, you see the grass lot. So where the grass lot and the wood line meet, the mulching in the trail is gonna start where the existing wood line is. And then it's gonna go back to the west and then to the northwest into the park area. So it's just gonna lead right back into the grassy area where everybody's parking. Just gonna get the cars in there and get emergency vehicles in there.
Basically,
yeah.
you're already
So
gonna have,
I was wondering,
you're basically already gonna have your path that they were talking about building predetermined and already done.
Right.
And then they just have to do however they want to do it.
I'm sorry, Chief, I missed that, I'm sorry.
With us doing this temporary pathway, when the park renderings come back from OHM or whoever does the final outcome, they will already have the design to make that second egress from the park.
Yeah, possibly, yep. Mr. Only,
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
To accept the bid from Fire Forestry not to exceed $15,000 in effort to make the path 15 feet.
I support. Any questions, comments?
You might want to put the address, that was pretty vague. At location, Northfield,
doesn't have an address.
9275.
No, that isn't it.
Okay, never mind.
Motion made, motion supported.
I support it. Any questions, comments?
Those lots on Main Street.
I would like to add that this will come out of the general fund because there's no other designation made in the motion.
Yes.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Can I ask too that wherever you put the road at, that you don't go into the shelter or anything that's into the park? Because there's a shelter already there.
No, not even. No, not.
Okay,
Nothing
okay,
more, this is-
all right.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Can I have 2 seconds since we're talking about the park?
Sure.
So I worked a traffic enforcement detail on Saturday, and congratulations to Miss Chick. She was one of the few that drove by not on her cell phone and doing the speed limit. But I just want to let you all know, I know the pier project sounds like it's getting some traction. Main Street, 50 is the new 25.
Yeah.
We as a police department cannot write our way out of this problem that's down there. And whatever's going to occur on that water edge, it's going to be a magnet to everybody that comes to that park. And I just hope that whatever's being designed takes serious thought into pedestrian crossing and traffic control device there, because somebody's going to get killed.
There's supposed to be,
The amount of traffic coming down Main Street, I was dumbfounded. Like, hopefully there's going to be a traffic study done soon. The out-of-town traffic on Main Street on Saturday, it was just continuously both north and south, nonstop all day. And like I said, 50 is the new 25.
There are traffic calming measures, but I don't know how, coming off of the expressway, that's the worst.
and that was the one reason why they didn't want two different entrances to the park, and they only wanted one, was because if we do put a crossing in there, it's just in that one area.
So I think the previous board discussed like those traffic calming measures, like skinnier lanes, a divider near the pedestrian crossing. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing 25 through there, you're getting honked at.
Yeah,
Like,
and
yeah.
the people that I did have contact with are like, oh, I'm not from around here, I didn't know the speed limit. And I mean, it was just over and over and over, and they probably don't, right? But,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, 50 is the new 25.
Now, wait a minute.
We have signage.
If you have a new car, your car tells you what the speed limit is.
I'll look at
So
it.
the speed limit signs on the road.
Okay, well,
Pretty well marked.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too. Item 9, consider a wastewater treatment plant staffing request. Mr. McDonald.
Yes, Tom Rowley, he's our lab tech, and he's going back to college come August. And my plan was to try something different to help with the training of this new employee that we hire, to start them out in the field first before they would initially take over the lab. So it would benefit the wastewater treatment plant more efficiently, with the quality of work, being on call, emergencies, and the weekend duty that they would have to do. I'd like to start them off being able to do that. And we would have, if this gets approved, I mean, we would have a little bit of an overlap in employees, because Tom would be still doing the lab, and then we will be training this guy for everything else that we do in the field, emergencies, and the weekend duty. So with that being said, I didn't know whether or not for the board, if it would be a big deal to have like maybe a 3-month overlap to having another full-time employee. So
I would just ask, what, is it in the budget?
yes, well, we have money in the budget for hiring
I
another
think
employee.
it's a really good idea to be proactive and prepare for him leaving. So I don't know if we actually need to approve anything.
Okay.
I think as long as you have it in your budget, you're fine.
yeah. I don't even think you need our approval.
But it's nice to tell us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you,
I was
board.
surprised to see it in there, to be honest.
I just
Do you have an
making
org-
sure.
Is there an org chart for the wastewater treatment plant? Where, or no? I just wondered.
Organizational charts? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
with the employees named. The only reason, I'm just asking because.
Yes, we do. Obviously, me, superintendent, and then Mike Spurl, he's system supervisor, and then Jonathan White, he's the maintenance
No,
supervisor.
the reason I ask is because
Yeah.
essentially we're adding a temporary position because there's not, that's the only reason, and not that it's temporary, it will be
Yeah.
full-time, but you don't have a vacant position. So you're essentially adding a new employee an additional employee for 3 months.
Correct.
So, yeah, I'm glad you brought it to the board. I think it's a great idea. That's the reason I asked if there was an org chart, you know, say I were to hire someone, I would have to have a vacancy in order to do that. And that's why I was just asking.
I follow you.
I think it's great that you're doing it.
That's why I brought up the overlap, because he's going to be initially taking over Tom's position. We just want to train him and everything
for
else
it.
before. Okay.
Very good. So,
Thank you.
Just to piggyback off of that, since you guys have already said that, it was my intention to come to the board. I have a sergeant that's getting ready to retire at the end of the year, and I want to do the same thing. I would rather have somebody trained to take his spot when he leaves as opposed to waiting 6 months after. So it's good to hear that you guys are okay with that.
very good. Thank you. Okay, trustee liaison reports. Start with me. So I've had 3 contacts regarding the lawn snow maintenance because I was listed on the bid if they had questions, so I know there's at least people looking. I was informed the LawNet lease ends May 31st this year, if that's correct. And I got that information. And so the board should discuss this at the next meeting, probably. A tentative meeting with the road commission did not happen in March, but the information that I had Jennifer forward this afternoon, late this afternoon, was the information I've been waiting since March. And so we all have that, but we need to discuss that item also. Ordinance enforcement should be a discussion at a near future meeting, and the office switch downstairs with the manager's office and the building planning is mostly completed that I saw today, maybe the exception of some computers. But it looks really nice, so check it out. Okay, clerk's report.
Nothing new.
Planning commission report. Ms. Chick.
Planning Commission met April 2nd. We had another discussion on the master plan. We received a really, really nice, long presentation from John Jackson on how the master planning process is going to go. And had also a discussion on the sewer capacity. We're going to have Mr. Rubel and Mr. McDonald at our next meeting on the 15th, I believe it is, or 16th, and to discuss what the Planning Commission needs from the Tetra Tech and from the wastewater treatment plan in regards to information to move ahead with the master plan. And also, I expect that the Planning Commission is going to recommend to the board to approve the additional study that Mr. Roman mentioned for the master plan process for the sewer lines. Also, we had a request to extend the site plan approval for a Stop and Store here on Main Street, and that was extended for another year-ish.
Thank you. ZBA report, Mr. Only.
The last time the ZBA met, we tabled a variance request for the storage unit on Whitmore Lake Road. They were asking for a variance based on the masonry requirement, knowing that the following week, the Planning Commission was going to be looking at that architecture design standards. We tabled it because if we would have denied it, the applicant wouldn't have been able to come back for at least a year. So we tabled it, and then he showed up at the Planning Commission. So, while we're on these trustee liaison reports, I would just like if we could, I don't do it either because I've never been asked to, but if we could just have something submitted in writing for them, for members of the public. Obviously, they can get the minutes for some of these things, but there's not minutes for them to see from the clerk's report. There's not minutes to see from a supervisor report. So previous boards had supervisor reports and clerk's reports. Even if it says clerk's report, nothing to report. But just coming in with a bullet, with a line item and nothing to go with it. I just think maybe we should start submitting something for these in writing. Just my thoughts.
Thank you. Parks and Recs Board report? Sato.
So for the Parks and Rec, we had, there was a few things that, I didn't attend the last Park and Rec meeting, but they did review the $53,800 that's left in the budget. They are allocating that to picnic tables, park benches, bike racks, and the major part of it is going to be for parking lot improvement to that, the stone area where it's in the parking lot, not the main parking lot, but in the back. They're going to want to extend the parking lot out to the edges of where the logs are and add more rock in there. They did not want to, I'm understanding that Tammy didn't want to move forward with it without the Parks and Rec, without the board knowing about it and approving it. And I said, basically, you didn't have to approve it because the money's in there for it. That's what the money was allocated for. But I did let Jennifer Delisle know last night, I will bring it to the board, let the board know that this is what you're spending the money on. And if the board had any issues with it.
I don't have any issues. I have a question. If you're going to be expanding the parking lot. I'm sorry, are you getting the engineer involved? Because you should be taking into consideration grading and drainage and those kinds of things when you're, how big is the expansion, feet-wise?
It's like about 2 feet around the edges. That's all it is.
Okay, I thought you meant going out.
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
not going, not moving. We already, there's already barriers up. We're just extending them because when you go to park in there, it's like you drop off. There's telephone poles all around it.
Oh, okay, that's all, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Chicks, so this is for the park,
Yeah, this is for the park.
and doing how much? How much was it?
It's-
The amount? I just thought that we were going to channel it through the planning commission again, once I said about the
The only
development
thing
of the
that's
park.
channeled through the planning commission is them to do the site approval plan. That's it. They're not.
I don't know about
they're
that.
not-
Do you, that's not my understanding.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think we need to establish exactly, it's really, really vague from the board and to the planning commission, exactly what should go before the planning commission in relation to anything that goes on in the park as far as development or construction or additions or moving land or land amending. So we need to decide that so the planning commission knows what they're supposed to look at and the board knows what to send over there, because right now we don't know.
I had the same understanding that anything going into the park needed to be approved by the planning commission, so whether it's...
That was never, can I tell you that?
Hold on, because when this was brought up, we talked about, I think they referred to it as a rain garden that was just built, just out of nowhere.
Well, yeah.
So we talked about anything that's being
But
done
that's
in the...
part of the site plan.
So anything that's going on in the park, whether it's the installment of grills or the installment of picnic tables or the expansion of a lot to go in front of the planning commission so that we're not just placing items sporadically throughout the park. And then once we get ready to carry out the full park development plan, that we have, this barbecue grill here that's in the middle of where a pavilion's gonna be,
So
or
is
this
are you gonna
bench
manage
here.
that as a planning commission?
So when this motion was made by this board for items at North Village Park to go through the planning commission, it was with my understanding per that motion and their approval that it was any structures going in the park, any modifications made to the park. And I think that's, from what I'm hearing, that was Mr. Roman's understanding, and that was Ms. Chick's understanding, and no one else has spoken on it, so.
Is that a motion, or you said there was a motion?
That was the motion, and that
Oh,
was
okay.
what was approved, and that's the understanding of the motion from myself and the other two board members who have spoke on it tonight.
Okay,
So my understanding is to take it, to have the site plan done by OHM and have it taken, which includes all, and in that site plan includes everything that's going to be done in that park, which means,
If the bike racks are already on the site plan and the picnic tables, then I
Yeah.
don't see what the issue would be. It's already approved.
That's,
But yeah,
that's,
you can't just go anywhere.
It hasn't been approved.
It hasn't gone through the
haven't-
planning
it hasn't
commission.
gone through yet.
Nobody's seen anything.
Nobody
yet.
has seen anything
say
yet.
slow down.
Because OHM hasn't finished it yet. They want the same site plan as what was done in, what OHM did in the front, the lakefront. They want the same thing done in the park, which is fine. But then when you talk about construction and everything, that is the next step, is once those site plans where we identified where the bathroom is going to be, where the pavilion's going to be, where the picnic tables are going to be and everything, that will be in the rendering of the site plan for the park, okay? All we're doing is we're purchasing
Okay.
the stuff. You know, picnic tables can be moved.
Some can, some are permanent, some are concreted in the ground. So if it's just the purchase of these items, then
That's all
yes,
it
that's
is.
great. But if I show up to the park at the end of May and there's 3 picnic tables here and 1 barbecue grill here, like that's
Well, we have 8 barbecue grills, and we have to decide eventually where to
as
put them.
part of that OHM plan
Yeah.
approved by the planning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, the next step is when you're ready to construct a building, who is overseeing it? I'm assuming that it goes to the township manager to oversee that construction. It should not be the planning commission that oversees.
No.
Any building ever goes to the planning commission.
You're going to have, OHM's going
Right.
to, they're going to oversee the
Yeah.
design, so
Okay,
But it has to be approved by the planning commission,
right.
yeah.
hopefully.
But you're not managing the construction of it, are you?
Oh, no, we don't do construction.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
OHM is our consultant for types
Okay,
of
but that's
issues
what I'm
like that.
saying, is everybody's assuming that the planning commission is going to be doing it from soups to nuts.
My, con-
I
the
think you
reason
have
I-
to detail.
The reason
it
I
there.
brought up my concern was that you're rattling off all the items and the amount, and it's like it hasn't been ready yet, I guess. That's my concern. I'd hate to see,
We're not changing anything that hasn't
No.
already been,
I'm just,
Changed.
yeah. But
It's
I
already
agree
in
with
there.
what Mr. Only described as far as my understanding of the motion we made months ago, but that's my comment.
When will we see a site plan?
I have called OHM, I have emailed them twice
Okay.
and said, you need to have it for the next board meeting, because the Parks and Rec hasn't even seen it yet.
Oh, well, we'll go to Parks and Rec, and then the planning
Yeah.
commission, then the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just letting the board know that they want to do the parking lot improvement, and they have to do it in order to do for the farmer's market. And they have the money in their budget to do it.
Did we get a market manager?
They have had 3 to 4 applicants for the for the farmer's market manager.
Okay.
And that is about it. If there is any money, I don't know, I think they talked about if there was any money left over from the 53.8 thousand, that they may get something for the playscape area. Do they have to go to the planning commission for that?
I don't know if the playscape area where it's at now is going to be there, or whatever that was thought of. I don't know. I haven't seen any plans. That's my point.
You're gonna move a $50,000.
I don't know what-
$50,000.
I don't know where anything's supposed to go there at this
Okay,
point.
well,
That's what I'm
where
saying.
it was is where we initially planned it.
Okay. Just my thoughts.
That's,
Are you finished? Okay.
I'm finished.
I think I had the same understanding as everybody else. It was to stop the random flower
Oh,
beds and the random
yes.
plantings and the
That's it. Yeah.
rows of tulips going across the lawn, and
No, that's the lands. Well.
you're standing there waiting for a piece of pizza.
Can I tell
and
you
you're
something,
told
guys?
You're standing on a garden.
This is more than just the park. There are wildflowers in the community garden, there's wildflowers at the community center, there's wildflowers out in the front of this township building. So you have to make a motion to change the ordinance that there are no more wildflowers
It's not an
being,
ordinance.
Can we do that?
there's natural flowers in your
Right, but the
ordinance.
state says you cannot, it's a state issue.
Okay,
I've been
well,
told. But we can make a motion for our township.
on our property,
Yeah.
that we don't put wildflowers anywhere.
No
Weeds.
random flowers.
Okay, we have to get back on track. Land Preservation Committee report,
Then you're still
Mr.
gonna
Donner.
have the same problem.
Last meeting,
No, we can just say no. You can't put
they've been working on drafting a letter to the planning commission with some of their ideas for the master planning process.
what?
Land Preservation Committee is drafting a letter to the PC
Okay, yeah,
with some ideas.
yep.
Just a reminder, that it was Mr. Lonnick supposed to do a quarterly report. I think we had discussed that. If he does something, but I don't know what's been provided, but I thought that's where we left it.
Jennifer might have gave me something today, hold on.
Okay, I'm just mentioning it. I'm not asking for it right now, but just a thought. Yep. Okay.
Thought I had it, but I'll find it here in a minute.
No problem. Okay, move on. Announcements, special meeting Tuesday, April 15th, beginning at 6 o'clock to conduct township manager interviews. April 19th, Kiwanis Easter egg hunt, and April 22nd, the budget workshop for police and fire services. Seeing there's no one, well, not necessarily, any comments from the public? No. Board member comments, clarifications. Mr. Only.
Yes, I just want to clarify that the special meeting to interview candidates for the township manager is open to the public, and information, and then a question, will information be provided in a packet form to the public prior to the meeting with the candidates' names, resumes? Just like a traditional meeting, like a packet comes out for a Tuesday meeting on the Friday before, will there be a packet this Friday available for the public?
It was my understanding that, wasn't the interviews or the thing going to be in closed session?
The interviews are public.
Okay, I would have to see how they were going to go about doing it.
If the interviews are,
Wanted some information, personal information redacted, that's all.
Yeah,
so I guess if the interviews are going to be public, they're going to sit here in a public meeting stating their name. We're going to ask them questions about their experience. We're going to ask them what they can do, what they can't do. I don't see why a packet wouldn't be provided like a traditional meeting with some information on each of the candidates. Yeah, just like a regular meeting. The public can't participate openly in a regular meeting. They can sit in the crowd. They can listen to our questions. They can listen to their responses. That was the same for the previous two managers' interview processes as well. I think maybe one of them was moved to the boardroom downstairs. But, so I guess just looking for clarification on that, on if or when that information will be made available to the public.
probably when you have a packet.
I don't know if a packet's coming out for it, so.
When our normal board meeting comes out.
This one's in between.
So it would be this Friday.
Yeah, well, I'll just have to ask.
Other than that,
You'll find it, the information. Mr. Moko.
I want to thank the board for approving that, I guess we'll call it a really temporary rock placement for the fireworks. And I really like the new design standards, but this facade rules, I think, are way too burdensome to not allow more than 25%.
Please try again.
Sorry. I'm sorry, I just think 25% max vinyl siding is overburdensome. I mean, that's all. I'm done.
Ms. Manley.
Nothing new. Good.
Nothing from me. Ms. Otto. Ms. Chick.
I will be out of town on the 15th.
Mr. Downer.
I just wanted to say tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the community center, the Historical Society is hosting some people from the state about putting 2 Northfield Township properties on the National Register of Historic Places, German Park and St. John's. It's open to the public, and it starts at 6.
Thank you. Chief Smith?
As the board's aware, we lost an officer about 10 days ago. I just wanted to let you know that I just gave a conditional offer to somebody yesterday. So hopefully we'll have him on board within the next couple weeks. So,
Chief Bishop? Mr. McDonald? None? Thank you. I make a motion to adjourn. Supported by Manley. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.